I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. All right. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati, and happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. We have a big show tonight. We actually have two guests that are coming on along with news stories. I don't want to keep Anthony waiting, so I do want to go ahead and jump right in. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rumble, and Twitter, and welcome back, ladies and gents. Tonight's theme is called Reasonable Doubt, and I think you'll see why when I show you the stories that we are discussing. Of course, there was a Jay-Z album called Reasonable Doubt, but it has to do with some of these other stories as well. So tonight we are discussing Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein. You say he's just a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, I have some receipts to show you. There are a number of people that have been saying that Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein couldn't have possibly known each other as early as they did. I have receipts that show otherwise. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into the creation of Jay-Z, how this all began. And yeah, I think you're going to have questions afterwards. We're also going to discuss Bill Gates has decided to respond about his appearance in the Epstein files. We're going to get into that. We're also going to discuss, if you haven't seen this, this is very, very concerning. JD Vance just recently had an interview with Megyn Kelly where he talks about the new world order. They're just putting it all out in the open, ladies and gentlemen. We don't even have to use our imagination anymore. We're going to get into that. We're also going to discuss NBC co-anchor Savannah Guthrie. I don't know if you've heard about the story. Her mother was taken. And there are some things about Savannah and her family that I think you guys need to see that gives me reason to pause. I don't think this was just someone that said, I'm just going to take this lady. So we're going to get into all of that. We're also going to discuss Keir Starmer, the prime minister of the UK, is not having a good week. They want him out of there after his comrade, Peter Mandelson, appeared in the Epstein files. So he is not having a good week. And last but not least, we do have two special guests that are joining us. The first one is going to be Anthony Aguilar. And the second guest, this was a surprise one for me, later on is going to be Butch Ware, who is running for governor of California. So we have a lot to get into tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the theme is reasonable doubt. So let's go ahead and bring in our first guest. All right. His name is Anthony Aguilar. You've seen him on the show before. He's a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel and Special Forces officer. He served for 25 years. He was also a whistleblower, and this is how a lot of us came to know about Anthony. He came forward about the operations at the U.S. Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation aid distribution sites. So Anthony is the one that came forward that let people know that they were shooting people as they were going to retrieve food. Let's go ahead and bring him in. He is now running for Congress. What's going on, Anthony? Welcome back.
Hi, Sabby. It's great it's great to see you again. You're looking as great as ever, and I love the title of the episode tonight. And even after this segment, I will be staying on to watch it because I am very interested in what your take on it is.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. So I was very shocked and surprised and happy to hear that you decided to run for office and you are not running as a Democrat or Republican. Can you tell everybody why you decided to go ahead and do the political route? Because again, a lot of us know about you because you came forward last year to tell people what was happening at those GHF distribution sites. And now I think it's really good to see someone like you trying to run for a political office. So why did you decide to run? And I believe you're running as a Green, correct?
That's correct. I am running as a Green for the North Carolina Congressional District 13 for the U.S. House of Representatives.
That is that is awesome. That is awesome. So when people say that Greens aren't running for other positions, I keep telling people that's not true. But tell us, why did you decide to pursue this route, and why did you decide not to run in either of the two parties?
Yeah, in terms of the green wave across the United States, we've got Butch Ware out in California. We got Greg Stoker in Texas. We've got 3 green candidates here in North Carolina, District 2, District 13, me, and one of the Senate seats. So green is a powerful party. And why I decided to run is because, frankly, I'm willing to step in and put myself on the line for our country once again. After 25 years of service, I very much look forward to retirement and looking at the state of our country and where our congressional leadership is leading us. Freedom is not a spectator sport. So I'm going to jump in and I'm going to do everything I can to represent the people of my district and more broadly, the people of this nation. I will take no PAC or super PAC or APAC or lobbyist or military industrial complex money. I will take no money from interest groups. This is grassroots, which brings me to why I'm not running Republican or Democrat. Both parties are two sides of the same coin. They are both corrupt. They are both compromised. They say one thing and do another. And the Democrats are just as complicit in many of the policies that we find ourselves in now, to include not standing their ground when they can. And it's concerning. So I'm running with the Green Party because the values align to my beliefs. Grassroots democracy. Absolutely. It's what we need now more than ever. And for the Green Party, right now in the midterm elections, the need for change has never been greater, and the opportunity for that change has never been better. Now's the time. Social justice, nonviolence, community-based economics, and then future focus and sustainability. Our planet. Like, I care about our planet, and so and all these things again are tied to policy and the government. So I've come to realize that many more Americans, 40 to 50% of adults over Gen Z and Gen X, and then that population of Gen Z, Gen X are now overwhelmingly identifying as independent. But they still feel the dilemma of the lie that is the two-party choice of, well, you have to vote Democrat or you have to vote Republican. And that is not true. I'm stepping in, one, as in politics, but two, as a Green, to break that paradigm. We will win in the midterms in North Carolina, District 13. The incumbent Republican receives APAC money. He stands with Israel, and he stands for the continuation of providing Israel with offensive weapons. He stands with Israel in not allowing aid into Gaza. He hasn't signed on to either of those House resolutions. His voting record says it all. He doesn't represent the people of North Carolina. He doesn't even live in the district. I live in District 13. I've raised my family in this district. I've lived in this district my entire military career that I've been at Fort Bragg for the last 12 years. I've lived here and I am running here. I am a District 13 North Carolinian. He doesn't even live in the district. So voters need to see that and say, do it. Do we want somebody that actually lives in our district, that represents our needs, that will speak on our behalf as one of us, who won't take money from a foreign government, who wants to raise up grassroots democracy and social justice and have programs and policies for universal health care and universal child care and an affordable living wage? Those are things that I think most Americans want. And that's what I'm standing on. So that's why I'm running.
Yeah, first of all, I think it's ridiculous that someone can be a politician in a district they don't live in, but there are some that do that. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous. How do you know the needs of the people if you're not even living there, for one? But for two, I think I look at someone like you and I see someone that, especially a lot of the younger people that you mentioned, can look at and say, hey, there is someone on the ballot who's not taking money from AIPAC or any pro-Israel lobby. There is someone on the ballot that is representing a lot of the things that I support. And I don't know. I've noticed there's this wave that's coming through now. There's you, there's Greg Stoker, there's Butch Ware. And so I don't want to hear people say that Greens only show up during the presidential election, because there's a wave of people that are coming through that are running. And I think that's really good. Now, a lot of us were introduced to you because you blew the whistle on the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which I guess on paper, it sounds like a good, positive thing. But you alerted us and others in the media that when Palestinians were coming to these aid sites, that they were being killed as they were coming to gather food. And I think that, number one, it takes a lot of courage to come forward and say something like that, because obviously you are putting yourself at risk by doing so. So when I look at someone like you and I say, okay, well, if Anthony were to get into Congress, you already did one of the most difficult things to do, and that's being a whistleblower. So when people ask, like, how are you going to push back against the powerful lobbies, the ones that come into Congress and persuade politicians to write legislation that is going to benefit them? How would you go about doing that? And I think this is the importance about having people in Congress that are independents, people that are third party politicians. We need more of that in Congress because there are very, very few. But go ahead, Anthony.
Well, I am one that believes in you get more flies with honey than vinegar. But when those flies are corrupt and spreading disease, you have to call them out and you have to put out the fly paper. So in Congress, I will absolutely work with Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Independents, and Greens in caucusing for legislation. There is no one congressman that can do that, but I will not bend on my principles in achieving that buy-in. And for the majority of those in Congress, I feel that if there's a turn happening now to where more congressmen, whether it's for their own survival or not, realize that taking money from AIPAC, pro-Israel lobby, or any foreign government or any personal driven interest is now political suicide. America's waking up to the truth, and they're seeing, like, that's not right. We pay you our tax dollars to represent us in Congress, and you are representing either a foreign government, a foreign entity, or your own personal interests in investing in the military-industrial complex. It's so clear now. So I think that a lot of congressmen, senators, and in the House are going to be very keen to understanding that if someone like me, who's not afraid to challenge the party line, who's not afraid to go against the grain, who's not afraid to call a spade, will look at that and say, so you don't want to join on to this legislation to block offensive weapons to Israel during a ceasefire when we shouldn't be providing them anyway. Why is that? That's not what your constituents want. That's not a moral, ethical standing. Why? Oh, is it because you have some of your retirement investments in Lockheed Martin? Is that why? Is it because you're paid $2.8 million from a pro-Israel lobby? Is that why? It seems like that's why. And I will call them out on that. I will call them out on facts, but I will not shy away from it, because in my corner, I won't live in a glass house. I will not live in the glass house of compromise where I'm taking money from those same organizations, or where I have my personal portfolio filled with Raytheon and all these others. In fact, I'm going to go to Congress with no stocks, no bonds, no investments, and not even a Roth IRA. Because I believe that if you were in Congress and you are representing the people, you should never be in a position that allows you, even if not but questionable, to take advantage of that position. And financial gain is a big reason for a lot of politicians who look at something like, oh, wait, we definitely should not provide Israel with bombs during a ceasefire that continue to kill unarmed civilians. But if we do that, I might lose APAC funding. If I do that, then my retirement investment in Lockheed Martin, which is making me millions right now, plummets because we're no longer providing that to Gaza. So is their decision being based on what's right, or is it be based on personal gain? And that's the question that every American should ask.
Very, very good points there, Anthony. I also want to mention, for those who are not aware, you have approached Congress members as well. For those who are new to Anthony, Anthony and I think her name's Josephine.
Yes, ma'am.
Both of them, military, former military. And I have seen videos, I played them on the show before, of you guys approaching Congress members about sending the weapons to Israel and all the money and the kids that are being killed. So you have already shown people that you can fight. That's why when we look at people like you, we're like, okay, you took a really big risk, and like you have approached people that are in the halls of Congress, a lot of corrupt people that are there. So it's not like, Anthony hasn't been there on the ground, and I've seen you speaking at other events as well about this issue and where the money is going. And speaking of issues, I do want to show people your mission page here. So you guys can go to Aguilar for U.S. Congress to see this, healthcare for all. And I love that on your mission page, you put the problem, the solution, the reality. I think that's needed. Universal child care, honoring our veterans. Go to another one here. Housing for people, not profit. Again, a lot of these are issues that especially a lot of younger people care about. Keep taxpayer money at home. I think a lot of us care about that. And this is something that's spread to both sides of the aisle, by the way. I'm hearing even conservatives say, keep our money here, clean jobs and the environment, clean democracy. So you're talking about corporations buying elections, which is a big, no. So I thought this was really, really good. And one thing that I did want to ask you and pass as well. So when it comes to legislation being passed in Congress, one of the things I think some people were upset about a couple of years ago was that $15 minimum wage. Now, we all know that's not enough for anyone to live off of today in the United States. But if something like that came through, if you won and you got in Congress and there was legislation once again about the $15 minimum wage, how would you vote on that?
Well, if it was 15, it's not enough. So I think now it's considered maybe like 21. But whatever it is calculated at the time based on inflation and cost of living, I would absolutely vote for the passing of a livable wage. Absolutely. Because the employers want to provide their employees with that. But when they're taxed to a point where they have to make those decisions, and they make the decision between keeping a salary or an hourly wage low, all of these things are connected. Corporations buying our elections, corporations buying our politicians, corporations running the price of things in our country, they're all connected. And if we can free ourselves from that, we can have universal health care. In fact, this year alone, if we didn't fund Israel with over $11 billion just to right now to this point in the year, imagine what we could do for healthcare. Imagine what we could do for housing. Imagine what we could do to raise the living wage or lower the cost of living by lowering the effects of or the precipitous of inflation. Imagine what we could do. Imagine what we could do if we don't have $1.7 trillion Department of Defense budget. Imagine if we didn't try to start a war everywhere in the world, and we didn't try to overthrow and change every other nation's form of government. Imagine if we did that through diplomacy and through economy and worked with other peer powers in the world. The days of hegemony and superpower are over. We will have to learn to get along with China and Russia. We'll have to. To say otherwise is ignorant. So imagine if we had all that money back here in the United States. And I don't say America and Americans first in an isolationist way, but I say that our tax dollars should be kept here and put Americans first in terms of a roof over your head that you can afford, that you're not paying a 50-year mortgage on. And by the time you've paid that 50-year mortgage, you paid for that house 10 times over in interest alone. You can afford food, good food, not just the ultra high processed stuff on the bottom of the shelf, but healthy food. Imagine that. That would also impact the health of our nation. We, the people, matter, and people in the country want to feel like they matter. And when they're pillaged in their paycheck, and they're pillaged at the gas pump, and they're pillaged at the grocery store, and they have no voice in Congress because Congress is sold and bought by foreign governments, that should make every American angry. And how do we demonstrate that anger in a positive and responsible way? We vote. We're nowhere near this whole idea of a, up in arms revolution. No, we can have a revolution of just exercising our constitutional right to vote. Get out there and vote.
Yeah, I will say I did see also, it appears you might be a part of OZAPAC. For those who are not aware, OZAPAC, talked about it a couple of months ago when it was announced. OZAPAC is a PAC that is an anti-Zionist PAC, and it's representing politicians across the political spectrum. Like Jose Vega is a part of it. I forget his name, Adam, he came on, he's running against Andy Fine. Aaron Baker is a part of it. So it's nonpartisan, but the focus of OZAPAC is to support candidates that are not taking money from the Israeli lobby and to keep that money right here at home. So I saw Michael Rechtenwald, he was on TYT earlier, and he was explaining how the goal is to get the Zionist candidates, the Zionist politicians out of Congress, because it's just too much. And it's not a super PAC for those who are wondering.
Nope.
But he's really gotten this ball rolling with getting these candidates under this umbrella in a nonpartisan way to get these politicians out of Congress that are serving Israel. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and the great thing about OZAPAC is that with a political action committee that endorses you, or that may provide funding to support your campaign, usually have a list of demands in exchange. Like you got to say this, you got to say that. Here's your talking points. Here's where your position is. OZAPAC's pretty clear. Don't be a Zionist. Pretty clear. And that's easy for me because I am anti-Zionist. I am not anti-Semite. I am not anti-Jew. I am anti-Zionist. And Zionism does not represent world Jewry, nor does it represent the faith of Judaism, nor does it represent those that believe that faith, or even does it represent technically all Israelis. Zionism is a racist, colonial, political ideology that has no place in our Congress and no place in backing our congressmen. And I don't just say that for Zionism. I say that for any ism that promotes control, dominance, and racism. Today it's Zionism, tomorrow it's something else. We should reject all of that. And that's what Zionism represents. And if you look at how many congressmen currently receive money from AIPAC and or additional money from other pro-Israel lobbyists that are pushing a Zionist agenda, it's frightening. It's frightening. So yeah, OZAPAC has endorsed me. OZAPAC will support me. And in terms of lobbyist groups or PACs that have a series of demands that this has to be your political position, or that I'm going out seeking an endorsement. No, And as a pack and their approach to me with Mike, who was very well informed in these issues, like, hey, it's a pretty simple requirement. Do you stand against Zionism? Yes, I do. I will say that unequivocally. I am anti-Zionist.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Anthony Aguilar, he's running as a Green for Congress. So if you're in North Carolina, if you're in his district, make sure you check out his website. It's Aguilar for Congress. So you can check it out here. Eric, you can put the link to this in the chat for everyone to have access to as well. Anthony, good luck. I wish you the best of luck. I know it's not easy, obviously, to run for office, but you've already been a fighter outside of electoral politics. So I can't imagine you not fighting when you're in. But thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you again. I always love having conversations with you, and I'm gonna obviously jump off the live and get out of the backstage, but I'm gonna stay tuned in to watch because this is a great episode. So thank you for everything
Awesome.
you do.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Anthony Aguilar. Again, he is running for Congress as a Green. You can check out his website there, ladies and gents. And again, like I said, I was pretty excited that he was running because this is someone who we've already seen fight. He's a fighter, right? So I have no doubt that Anthony, if he got in, that he would not fight back against these lobby interest groups. So good luck to Anthony there. Butch Ware is going to be joining us later in the show as well. He's running as a Green for governor of California, and he dropped a song. So we're going to see the song on the show as well. I didn't know Butch Ware could rap, so I thought it was kind of cool what he did there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's theme is reasonable doubt, just like the Jay-Z album. Do you have reasonable doubt? We'll see with these stories, ladies and gents. Let's go ahead and say hello here to some of the comments in the chat, and then we'll keep it moving with the next story. Topher saying this to Michael: would Foxy Brown saying they slept together when she was 15 be tangible evidence? Oh boy, it's already starting. Shout out to Bonnie Faith for becoming a Sabby member. Shout out to Tydro for becoming a Sabby member. Shout out to Zeneb Day for becoming a Sabby member. And shout out to Festinolante for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give them all a big whoop whoop in the house. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. AG, we need to get your buddies, your Green buddies in North Carolina to run for office in both chambers of NC legislature to turn North Carolina into a CBI state for amendments. This way, voters don't have to wait on the feds to get it done. They can do it at home. That's a good idea. Thank you so much for that, Roger. All right, ladies and gents, if you haven't had a chance to do so, can you do me a solid? Can you smash that like button? And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. We're going to keep it moving and grooving, folks, for the sake of time, because I don't want to run out of time before I know Butch is going to join as well. The theme, again, is reasonable doubt. And we're going to talk about this Bill Gates situation. Bill Gates has finally issued a response to his appearance in the Epstein files. It's interesting that after all these years, now he wants to say something about it in an interview. He is one of the people that Nancy Mace is requesting to testify. I don't know if you guys saw this. We're calling for Bill Gates to testify under oath on his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein in front of the Oversight Committee. 3 million pages of Epstein documents were just released by the DOJ, and the allegations are sick. If these allegations are false, Bill Gates should have no problem saying so under oath before Congress. And you can see, here's the pictures here. Nobody above the law, not billionaires, not the powerful, nobody. So even with Nancy Mace here, what I noticed about her, she's making it partisan, which many of the politicians in DC are doing. The Epstein files are not partisan, as I've shown you on this show multiple times. And it's interesting. She says no one's above the law, not the billionaires, not nobody, but apparently they are, because these files existed for a long time. And I don't see anybody being locked up or going to jail, et cetera. I mean, Donald Trump's a billionaire. He seems to be above the law. So she's making it partisan. I haven't seen her call for anyone who is on the Republican side to come and testify. And I'm noticing Democrats are doing the same thing. But Bill Gates did issue a response in this interview. You guys have got to hear this.
It's a $100 billion handshake.
How are you? Thank you.
Bill Gates back in Australia committing his money to medicine. But as we sat down, the world was gripped in the latest round of accusations from the Epstein files.
Yeah, I met Jeffrey in 2011. The focus was always he knew a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health. In retrospect, that was a dead end, and I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him.
Tonight, the demand for answers include from his former wife.
Those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
You've no doubt seen the allegations, including some of them from the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is, false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. It just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
So let's back up the truck for a second, shall we? Bill Gates' wife had an interview with Gayle King a while back. We played it on the show just the other night, where she said that the first time, and apparently it was the last time, that she met Jeffrey Epstein, she said that he was evil personified. That was the feeling that he gave Bill Gates' wife. She met him once. And at that time, Bill and Melinda were still married, still together. So let me get this straight, Bill. Your wife says, I'm not fond of this Jeffrey guy. He's evil personified. Oh, makes my skin crawl. And you proceeded to continue your relationship with him anyway. It's interesting. All the people coming forward now like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, my God. I wish I would have had nothing to do with that guy. But your wife told you he was evil personified. That didn't raise any alarm bells? That didn't make you say, oh, maybe I should not hang out with this guy. He makes my wife uncomfortable. They went on later to get divorced. Wait till you hear this part.
The problem is some of the things that he has sent and some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true. Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so.
Pause. Let's go back. Everybody noticing the talking points? Watch it again.
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island.
I never went to the island. Why does everyone keep saying that? Why does everyone, Donald Trump, everyone that's been questioned about this, Deep Chopra also said, I never went to the island. Why do they keep saying that? As if that's the only, residence that Jeffrey Epstein had. As if the abuse only took place on the island. There was Zorro Ranch. Did you go to Zorro Ranch, Bill? Did you go to Palm Beach, Bill? Bill, did you go to his townhouse in New York City? Notice they don't say that. Notice they don't say, I never went to the townhouse. I never went to Zorro Ranch. I never went to Palm Beach. It's just, I never went to the island. And this is the talking point I think that they're probably getting from some of their lawyers. And I think what they're trying to do is to make you believe that abuse only took place on that island. Don't forget, Jeffrey Epstein already had a charge from other residences, one of them including Palm Beach, before that island. So you're killing me, Bill. You're killing me. So pay attention to all the people who are saying they never went on the island. I believe that's a trick.
I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
He never met any women, but there's several pictures of Bill Gates in the Epstein files with other women. Now, it doesn't mean he did anything with those women, but there's a difference to say, I didn't do anything sexual to these women, I didn't abuse these women, and you saying, I never met any women. There's literally pictures of you with women, Bill. I see why Melinda had to leave you. I see this. It's just wild to me. These people are blatant liars. Do we really believe that any of these people who are questioned are going to come forward and say, yeah, I was on that island. Yeah, I abuse people. No, they are saying what their lawyers told them to say. Now, he goes on to say that he believed that Epstein was going to help him get money or give him money towards global health. That's important when we get to another email that came from the Epstein files about Bill Gates. Let's go on a little bit more here.
It comes at a time where trust in institutions is low and demand for charity is high. Donald Trump ending the USAID program, cutting billions and costing lives.
There are already hundreds of thousands of deaths from the money being cut off.
The Gates Foundation stepping in. Already $100 billion has been spent, and now the Microsoft mogul and his friends are pledging to spend roughly $200 billion more before closing the foundation in 20 years.
So I wanted you to see this, that Bill Gates was at the World Economic Forum. Again, like all these rich people going to these conventions, these events to plan our lives for us. And this is really important. There's another email here that came from the Epstein files. Shout out to Parapower for capturing this one. Now, when you look at this email, let's start at the bottom. It is between Jeffrey Epstein at first and Barry Josephson. Barry Josephson is a filmmaker. So Barry says, Jeffrey, how old is she now? Best Barry. You see it there? It says Josephson Entertainment. The response here says 16. Thank you very much. And this is RE. The subject matter is your niece. It goes on to say here, her full name again. Is she in New York for a few weeks? And sorry, please have your office forward me her mom's contact info again. A friend is shooting a feature in New York and I'll try to get her in. That's from Barry. And as you can see, it says forwarded message. So Jeffrey Epstein forwarded this message to whoever this is. This name here is redacted. And the message is still forwarded, your niece. Now, this person replies, whoever they are, because the name is redacted. And I want you to see what this says. Cool. I'm excited. Also, I've been thinking a lot about that question you asked Bill Gates. How do we get rid of poor people as a whole? And I have an answer. Comment regarding that for you. When can I call you today to discuss this? So we don't know who this is, but they are saying he had a conversation with Bill Gates about how can they get rid of poor people. The fuck's that's about? What do you mean get rid of poor people? Now, some people saw this and they said it could allude to depopulation. Don't know. But what do you mean get rid of poor people? Do you mean like make poor people disappear? Do you mean like make poverty disappear? Because if you mean make poverty disappear, then you would not need to be, you can't be billionaires. Okay? Because Bill Gates wants you to believe that it was just about global health. That's the only thing he was talking to Epstein about. Like I said, if you look further, you can see more information in those files. Now, his wife, she issued a response after this latest dump of files here. And I want you to hear what Melinda Gates had to say.
No, girl. No girl should ever be put in the situation that they were put in by Epstein and whatever was going on with all of the various people around him. No girl. I mean, it's beyond heartbreaking, right? I remember being those ages, those girls were. I remember my daughters being those ages, right? So for me, it's personally hard whenever those details come up, right? Because brings back memories of some very, very painful times in my marriage, but I have moved on from that. I purposely pushed it away and I moved on. I'm in a really unexpected, beautiful place in my life. So whatever questions remain there of what I can't even begin to know all of it, those questions are for those people and for even my ex-husband. They need to answer to those things, not me.
Zainab Day. Zainab says that, remember, Bill abandoned her because she got cancer. That's what kind of man he is. Yeah. So she kind of has to answer for some of these things that Bill Gates did, right? Like, people are looking to her like, how do you feel about all of this, right? You know who else people are looking at? Peter Thiel. In fact, again, all these people are connected. Bill Gates, Jeffrey Epstein, Peter Thiel. These are all rich billionaires. They were all connected. And this is why I say throw the party line aside especially when it comes to the Epstein files. Because we know Peter Thiel created JD Vance, heavily supported the Trump administration, but we know Bill Gates is a Democrat. But what they all have in common is class. They're all rich. They're freaking loaded. So they can come together on those things. But they don't want poor people, middle class, or what's left of middle class people in this country. They don't want the 99% to come together on the basis of class. Because you see, Peter Thiel, they chased him down. And I don't know what screams guilty more than this. He was confronted. Watch this.
Any comments at all on the Epstein connections? You were meeting with them. People are waking up to what you're doing there, sir. That's why we're here covering this.
See how fast he's walking? Walking away, walking away.
Wow, Peter Thiel was booking it. That man picked up the pace. The second the word Epstein came out, it seemed he started getting a little faster. But stone cold Peter Thiel. Of course, co-founded Palantir with Alex Karp, who is still here. And these are the guys who are setting up the Big Brother surveillance system, essentially to track, trace, and database everyone.
Yep.
Not just Americans. You may have heard me say that, but literally everyone. And that's a big reason of part of the reason why he is here. There is a lot of heavy kind of tech representation here and military men who are preparing for something. So
again, if you've done nothing wrong, what are you running away for, right? You know, I don't believe what Bill Gates says. You should neither. You should have reasonable doubt. But someone got really smart here, and they actually found a way to take Jeffrey Epstein's Gmail and convert it to Jmail so that you can actually look through his email as if you were him. And it actually does work. There's Jmail for email, Drive for the drive, and of course, Jmail World Photos for video and photos. And just to show you, let's see if we come up here. It really does work. And so you can see all of this. Again, you're seeing what they allow you to see. Just keep that in mind now. And then you'll see the list of contacts over here, over to the left panel here. But again, these are all the names they want you to see. So you can click on things here. Cecilia Steen, my dearest Jeffrey, I don't know when you'll get to read this. So see, it's still redacted. So this is what they're allowing you to see. But someone did this. So you guys can look at this yourself. If you go to Margaret Kimberly's tweet there, and be careful doing this as well, because Eric did bring to my attention, does that have any kind of tracer on it or anything like that? But if you go to Margaret Kimberly's tweet here, you'll see she put the links there as well. I have reasonable doubts that Bill Gates is telling the truth there. And for years, it has always bothered me how people, especially like in academia, I'm here in Massachusetts, there's a lot of elite universities here, how they just like bow down to Bill Gates. Oh, Bill Gates, the Gates Foundation, and da-da-da. Maybe they should ask Bill Gates what he's doing in Africa. We'll have to get into that someday, what he's got going on there. Someone made this, and I got to tell you, I can't even production. This is exactly what it is. We'll have to keep it muted because of the music, but watch this. It's just been a whole stage. The world's a stage. You'll see he created, that's supposed to be Jeffrey Epstein there with the cape on. It's all theater, ladies and gents. And again, when you're watching this, just remember, this is what they want you to see. There's Nickelodeon. There's the pizza. Remember the whole Pizzagate thing? All these people that they call conspiracy theorists, we look back on some of this stuff and it's like, man, maybe they weren't crazy after all. You know what I mean? Yeah, Eric can put the link to this in the chat. Someone was asking about that. There he is taking pictures with everybody. There's Bill Gates, Mr. who's now claiming, no, I didn't have an STD, whatever. So they're basically, this is him pulling back the curtain. Look at all the people, the Dalai Lama. That's supposed to be Jelaine. Yes, someone created this. Some type of laboratory there. There's a doctor. I know, Nikki, it is creepy. It is. But this is basically like, oh, look at there. Politicians, the banks. There you go. ISIS. Yeah, this is someone created this, guys. They created it to basically tell the story in so many ways. Again, the presidents. You guys see this? Oh, don't forget the influencers who said, we got the files. This is how we have been played. And then, of course, there's President Trump. Because what this shows you is that regardless of political party, he captured all of it. And then there's Benjamin Netanyahu pulling the lever. There you go. So, like I said, nobody has access to all those people and got away with what he did for so long, unless you are a spy. But that's essentially what it has been. So kudos to the person who made that. I Can't Even Productions. That was actually a good job. Good job. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Thank you for the super chat, Zeneb. Do you think that Stoker, Aguilar, Ware, and others running will inspire more races? I think so, and I hope so. I'm hopeful. Thank you for the super sticker. Yap, thank you. Thank you, Roger. They weren't women, they were girls. That's right, they were girls. Thank you, Salt and Pepper. Bill kept a woman on the side his whole marriage, but we're supposed to believe he resisted Epstein's enticement. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Batty. If Bill wants to get rid of poor people, perhaps he should pay taxes at the same rates the poors do. Ooh, there you go, Batty. Thank you, RM. Elsewhere on YouTube, there's a video of Bill getting hit with 3 cream pies back in 1999. It looks like the pie hit men were from the future. And thank you for the super chat, Max Roy. Thank you so much. We're keeping it moving and grooving. Again, we're going to the next story, and the theme is reasonable doubts. The UK not having a good week if your name is Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the UK. You should have reasonable doubts about him apparently not knowing or believing what Peter Mandel said about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And Parliament right now, they are calling for Keir Starmer to step down. Now, do I think this is going to happen? We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But if your name is Keir Starmer, you are not having a good day. These Epstein files are really putting a cramp in some people's week. So we're going to show you 2 different outlets here. GBN leans more conservative. And then we're also going to show you what The Guardian is saying about this, which leans more liberal, to be fair. But check this out.
Tonight, we are witnessing the downfall of Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. This is it. In Parliament, Sir Keir Starmer admitted he knew about Peter Mandelson's continued friendship with the world's most notorious paedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, and he appointed him anyway.
Can the Prime Minister tell us, did the official security vetting he received mention Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein?
So clear. Yes, it did. As a result, various questions were put to him. Mandelson completely misrepresented the extent of his relationship with Epstein and lied throughout the process, including in response to the due diligence.
Did you hear the gasp? Did you hear the gasp from everybody? Oh my God. Yes, yes, yes. Keir Starmer appointed someone. We'll get into who he is. He appointed someone named Peter Mandelson, who had direct relations with Jeffrey Epstein, and they are holding him accountable. When I saw these videos yesterday, I said, this is exactly what our Congress should be doing right now. Everyone in Congress, they should be doing this to Donald Trump. They should be doing this. I think the Clintons are supposed to come testify. They apparently have agreed to come testify now. That's interesting. They should be doing this to everyone. They want him out. And you can't blame them. You really can't. Let's go on a little bit more. It's not good.
Keir Starmer admitted that he relied on the word of a man widely regarded as a serial sleazebag about his relationship with a known paedophile. Starmer said that, well, he was just misled by Mandelson, didn't he? Reform's Robert Jenrick, though, claimed today that Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper revealed Peter Mandelson was not subject to security vetting before being named as ambassador. So the decision to appoint Mandelson and the subsequent fallout is on the Prime Minister, and he has to go. We need to cast our minds back, because even when more evidence emerged about Mandelson and Epstein, Starmer stood up in Parliament and backed him.
The ambassador has repeatedly expressed his deep regret for his association with him. He's right to do so. I have confidence in him.
Oh, boy.
Sir Keir Starmer knows he's finished over this. He knows it's game over. Just watch this video and look at Starmer's hands here. Now, I think it's pretty obvious he's shaking.
But can I reassure the House, Mr. Speaker? Let me reassure the House. The process for deciding what falls into those categories will not be a political process. It will be led by the Cabinet Secretary, supported by government legal teams.
The moment there on that is you can see how he's trying to hold his hands to stop them shaking, and then he drops one on the desk in front of him, and you can see it going. So just watch it again, and we've zoomed in on it for you.
The process for deciding what falls into those categories will not be a political process. It will be led by the Cabinet Secretary.
Do you see he was trying to stop his hands from shaking? So let me tell you something, okay? I think Keir Starmer, you're full of shit too, okay? These people knew. He already knew that he had a relationship with Epstein. When people raised their voices about it before, he said, well, I trust that he can do the job and do it right. You knew. And now, yeah, you're shaking because this information is out there. And yeah, you're probably going to have to resign, Keir Starmer. I haven't watched George Galloway yet today, but I'm pretty sure George Galloway is going to go off about this one. You were complicit. All these people were complicit. We're going a little bit more here. I just think it's hilarious.
Clear as day. Even now, Sir Keir Starmer is accused of still trying to cover things up. He wanted it to just be his cabinet secretary who would be in control of the release of all of the Mandelson evidence. That would allow senior civil servants to dictate which documents could be withheld, not just on national security grounds, but also on grounds relating to international relations, which, given that Peter Mandelson was going to be a US ambassador, right, would have been everything, wouldn't it? It would have been everything. Think about what Starmer was trying to do there. Redact the whole thing. Shameful. Starmer is now facing a backbench revolt. Angela Rayner led the charge. And it will now be Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee that dictates which documents we see and which we don't. And I certainly hope it's absolutely flipping all of them.
So they are pushing this forward to show documents. And like I said, you know, they're going to decide what you get to see and what you don't get to see. But this is the same type of energy that we should have in our Congress right now. Same type of energy. You know, the UK moves kind of differently. And I have to say this, you know, what's really interesting, Keir Starmer, that you were willing to give Peter Mandel a chance. You were willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, even though you knew there was a relationship there with him with Epstein. Meanwhile, you have police knocking down people's doors in the UK because of content that they post on social media for being pro-Palestinian. So do you see how they are willing to inflict violence on the working class for little things like, I don't know, freedom of speech? But you got someone right there next to you who you knew had this relationship with this slime ball, and you appointed him to a position anyway. You didn't see the police knocking his damn door down. So you see who they protect and who they go after. That's the hypocrisy here. The way that the UK, by the way, have really cracked down on social media and free speech. The videos that I have seen, the way that they are beating people, taking people to jail because of what they post on social media, it is very scary because they're basically like the stepchild of the United States. You got all that violence out there towards the working class for expressing free speech, but you ain't got nothing for this guy. That's the crazy part about it. But who is Peter? Let me tell you a little bit about Petey Pete. Who is Peter Mandelson? This is the guy. Okay. Lord Mandelson and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein are back in the spotlight after numerous emails between the pair featured in the latest release of documents by the U.S. Department of Justice. Notice it says back in the spotlight. What was his role in labor? Let's go on a little bit here. Lord Mandelson started working in labor in the 1980s. He's been a central figure in the party for decades. He played a key role in the new labor movement, which saw Sir Tony Blair win a landslide election victory in 1997. He comes from that movement. And we all know Tony Blair is a war criminal. He played a key role, here we go. The MP for Hartlepool held a number of ministerial roles, but was twice forced to resign in scandal. Again, this is someone with a history, but Keir Starmer was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. His first resignation was in 1998 when it was revealed he had received a secret loan of £73,000 from his ministerial colleague, Jeffrey Robinson. Less than a year, he was back in government as Northern Ireland secretary before being forced to quit in 2001 over allegations of misconduct related to a passport application for the Hinduja brothers. An inquiry later cleared him of wrongdoing. After spending 4 years as EU Trade Commissioner, he made another shock comeback when the Prime Minister Gordon Brown, appointed him as business secretary and gave him a place in the House of Lords. Why was he sacked as U.S. ambassador? So again, global politics is domestic politics. You see the relationship here? Yeah, buddy. Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer appointed the Labour veteran as the UK's ambassador in Washington in December of 2024. It was hoped his contacts across business and politics, as well as his ability to charm, would help him to develop a strong relationship with the incoming Trump administration. Lord Mandelson's friendship with Epstein and the fact that he continued his relationship with the financier after he was convicted was known at the time of the appointment. What I tell you, they knew. Even The Guardian, Labour MPs say Starmer days as MP are numbered amid fury over Mandelson. Days are numbered. Labour MPs have warned that Keir Starmer's days as Prime Minister are numbered after a day of fury over the appointment of Peter Mandelson as U.S. ambassador, despite his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. The government was on the brink of a defeat in the Commons until a mid-debate amendment brokered by Meg Hillier and Angela Rayner to force the release of the documents about Mandelson's appointment and the depth of his relationship with the convicted child sex offender. So they want him out of there. They want him out. Now, here is Keir Starmer now asking for forgiveness, right? This is his statement now.
Let me be clear. No one is above accountability. And no one, however well connected, however experienced, however senior, should hold public office if they cannot meet the basic test of honesty.
But you knew that he had that relationship with Epstein and you appointed him anyway. So apparently, yes, some people are above the law.
I also want to address the publication of the information Mandelson provided during the appointment process. I understand the strength of public feeling. I share the anger that people feel when powerful individuals appear to escape scrutiny. And I want to be able to release those documents as quickly as possible. I wanted to release them yesterday, in fact, and to talk about them at Prime Minister's questions.
No, you didn't. So here's the thing. If he wanted to release them, he could have done that already. Notice the talking points, guys. Here we go again with no one is above the law. I wanted to release the documents. Sound familiar? Similar talking points to our politicians right here in the United States.
But the police have advised that releasing certain information now could risk prejudicing a future investigation or legal process. And however frustrating from my personal point of view that is, and it is, I will not take any step, however politically tempting, however popular, that risks justice for victims.
Go ahead and step down, Pierce. We got to play pressure for this. I said Pierce. Kears. Go ahead and step down, Kears. You're under pressure.
Let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. Give them a name to remember. Hey, let's see how you do under pressure. Let's see how you do under pressure. A moment can live on forever.
A moment can live on forever, Kears.
because this is not and must never become a political game. The victims of Epstein have lived with trauma that most of us can barely comprehend. And they've had to relive it again and again. They have seen accountability delayed and too often denied. To them, I want to say this. I am sorry. Sorry for what was done to you. Sorry that so many people with power failed you. Sorry for having believed Mandelson's lies and appointed him. And sorry that even now, you're forced to watch this story unfold in public once again. But I also want to say this. In this country, we will not look away. We will not shrug our shoulders.
Dude, you looked away when you appointed him. Everyone's sorry now, right? Bill Gates, I'm sorry I had a relationship with him. I'm sorry I ever knew him. I am sorry that this happened. Keir Starmer over here. Everybody's sorry now. Or it's, I didn't really know the guy. I never went to the island. Wink, wink. If he wanted the information released, he could have asked for that information to be released before he decided to appoint him. The thing is, Keir Starmer didn't want the information released. And whoever Keir Starmer is working for, whoever is his boss, probably told him, go with the flow. So they're pushing for him to step down. And I think that should happen. And honestly, we need to have that happen here in the United States. Same thing, similar thing needs to happen. So you should have reasonable doubt when it comes to Keir Starmer, what he says he did not know, and that he's, oh, so sorry now. No, you're sorry you got caught. That's what it's about. Eric, let's go to part 2 for Tight VNC. If we can, thank you. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Keir Starmer now, that's a Third Reich name if I ever heard one. Academic Speech says the media played a huge part in these cover-ups. Now Guthrie's, actually, let's hold that one. We're going to get to that one in just a second. Thank you for the super sticker, Anton Wheeler. Thank you, Kenman. Is Dr. Shiva in the Epstein files? I have not seen his name. Lee said, I watched George yesterday and he did jump off on it. Okay, I figured. I'm going to have to catch up with that one. Thank you, Roger. Notice who is not on there? Putin. He must feel vindicated from all the Russiagate nonsense. I know, right? Yeah. Pay attention to who's not on there. This story is giving me pause. At first, I was just like, oh, okay, do I want to cover this? And then I looked a little bit further and I was like, oh, we got to talk about this one. Reasonable doubt. I have reasonable doubt about this disappearance of Savannah Guthrie's mom. Savannah Guthrie is a co-anchor at NBC News for like the Today Show. Her mother disappeared fairly recently. And after I did a little bit more digging, I think she was taken. And I think it goes deeper than people may have realized. Because I looked into who her family is, who they worked for, and there's just a lot of coincidences. And I'm starting to wonder if this is more of a test or threat. Let's go ahead and get into it. It was announced just the other day that her mother disappeared. Listen to this.
A white female, 84 years of age, 5'2" medium build, powder blue. Things after 2200 hours as of yesterday. Nancy has high blood pressure, pacemaker, and cardiac issues.
So what you're hearing there, that's the newly uncovered audio of what a dispatcher said when the call went out that Nancy Guthrie was missing on February 1st. We hear that dispatcher mention that Nancy Guthrie has a pacemaker, she has high blood pressure, and she has cardiac issues. You remember the sheriff of Pima County said she's incredibly sharp mentally, but physically she has some limitations where she wouldn't be able to walk 50 yards on her own. Now, the pacemaker, that also is a very key part of this story because it's helping put the timeline together of when Nancy may have been taken from her home. Now, as a reminder, the sheriff said that Nancy was taken against her will in the middle of the night. They say when they walked into her house, they realized what they were dealing with was a crime scene and that she did not leave that home willingly, that someone must have come in there and taken her from that home. Now, Fox News Digital says that the pacemaker that Nancy Guthrie had, that is synced to her Apple Watch. And the watch was still on the charger near her bed when deputies arrived at her home the next day. They also say they have her cell phone, which was found at her house. And that pacemaker, according to this Fox News Digital report, synced to her watch last at around 2:00 in the morning Sunday. So
if you know that this is someone that has medical conditions, someone that they said can't walk like 50 feet, yeah, somebody took her. The question is who and why? I would imagine someone who wants to get back at Savannah or possibly Savannah's husband, somebody in her family, because it has not been uncommon for people who are higher up to go after family members instead of going after the person that they have issue with. When I get into this a little bit more about Savannah and who she is, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. Let's go on a little bit more here.
Here's what we know when it comes to the final time that anyone had seen Nancy Guthrie. And it brings us back to Saturday night. Law enforcement says it was between 9:30 and 9:45 in the evening that Savannah Guthrie's older sister, Nancy Guthrie's daughter, Annie, dropped Nancy off at her house after they had had dinner. Now, Nancy lives alone in this home north of Tucson, Arizona. Now, we don't know much about what happened next. Deputies were called at 12:15 in the afternoon on Sunday after Nancy didn't show up for church. She is very much a devout churchgoer. So when she was a no-show Sunday morning, that was a major cause for concern. The sheriff says that Nancy's family was first notified that she was missing around 11:00 in the morning on Sunday.
We do believe that Nancy was taken from her home against her will, and that's where we're at.
Okay. So let's skip a bucket here for just a second. Usually the last person who saw you is considered a person of interest. So the family member that took her home and dropped her off is probably at this point a person of interest. Last I checked, they have not labeled them as a suspect just yet, but usually that's kind of how these things go. Doesn't mean that they actually did it. Who knows? But it makes me wonder if someone was waiting, if it wasn't that person, if it was someone who was waiting, someone who knew what time she was getting home. I mean, when you look at the property, it kind of, it looks kind of rural. So you would think if there was someone out there watching, you would be able to see them. You never know though, right? It's the desert. It's at night, Arizona. But typically that person would be a person of interest at this point in time. It has been a couple of days. This is someone that has a pacemaker, they said. This is someone obviously that has medical needs, needs medical attention. Cell phone, she doesn't have it. Watch, doesn't have it. So it has been a couple of days. And now people are asking the question if she is even alive. Let's go on a little bit more here.
The sheriff has been trying not to release too much information to the media over the last couple of days, but there has been a lot of speculation out there when it comes to this story. You have a lot of media outlets putting out pieces of information from anonymous sources that authorities have had to respond to. And one of those pieces of information that deputies haven't confirmed, but they also haven't denied, are these alleged ransom notes that were sent to media outlets on Tuesday. TMZ was the first to report that they received one. Then you had several other outlets, including local TV stations in Tucson, saying that someone had emailed them a ransom note as well. So TMZ says that they received this note Tuesday morning, and the note reportedly demanded a specific and substantial amount of Bitcoin, millions of dollars of Bitcoin, be sent to a specific Bitcoin address. TMZ says they were able to verify that the Bitcoin address was real, and they also say that the note gives a deadline for the money to be sent and what TMZ calls an element of or else. So the sheriff's office posted this on social media in response to the amount of talk about these ransom notes, these alleged ransom notes that were being sent out to the media outlets. And
so again, the property here, so you guys can see, because if you're wondering where someone could have hidden, just so you can see the property. But yeah, apparently there are ransom notes. They're asking for money, and those notes did have a deadline. Now, I have to show you the weird connection, because this is wild, and I've seen some things. Guess whose name? Hold on, let me come in here. So I'm gonna make this bigger so you guys can read it with me. Guess whose name also appears in the Epstein files? Savannah Guthrie. Now, of course, she's not accused of doing anything or being on the island or anything like that, but you guys need to see this. Let me bring this up here. September 18th, 2019. Just wanted to give you a heads up. She's done another interview with Savannah Guthrie. It is right here. In it, she said the following. She was interviewed by the FBI in 2011 by a blank. In the interview, she gave the names of all the girls she helped to traffic. 2, she was also interviewed by SDNY. No time frame. 3, 2 other women also tell DOJ that Epstein specifically trafficked them to other men. And 4, there are cameras in the New York City house and others where he could watch people in bathrooms and elsewhere. They're talking about that New York City townhouse that he had. They plan to air it on Today and this Friday's Dateline. Hope that's helpful. That was 2019. Savannah Guthrie apparently was going to air this story about one of the alleged Epstein victims in 2019. I found it kind of interesting that her mom just happened to be kidnapped right after this latest dump of Epstein files. I have to say, for the record, this is the very first time I saw that her name was in the file. I never knew about this before. So we're just trying to put these pieces together. We don't know for sure if it's connected, but I'm just looking at the timing. It seems a little bit coincidental. And there's more. When you look into her family, in particular her husband, Savannah Guthrie's husband was Michael Feldman. Guess who he worked for? Let's pull this up here. Michael Feldman was a consultant. Peep this, fam. He worked for American Public Relations. He was a communication consultant and a former Democratic political advisor. Feldman was Vice President Al Gore's traveling chief of staff during the 2000 presidential campaign. He is the founding partner and managing director of the Glover Park Group. It's a communications consulting and advocacy firm. They have also been known to scrub information, FYI, that company. Now, fast forward, Feldman joined Bill Clinton's campaign staff in 1992. Following the election, Feldman served in the Clinton administration as vice president of Al Gore's deputy director of legislative affairs from 1993 to 1997. In 1997, Feldman became a senior advisor and traveling chief of staff to the vice president, a role he held until 2001. In November, he played a key role in Gore's decision to contest the results at that time. We have to be careful what we say on here because YouTube gets finicky about that. Feldman formed the Glover Park Group with Gore campaign advisors Carter Escrew and Chip Smith and former White House press secretary Joe Lockhart. So we're looking at, let's go on a little bit more. Watch this. In an interview with lawyers Ben Chew and Camille Vasquez in regard to the Depp versus Heard defamation trial, Feldman's wife, Savannah Guthrie, revealed that Feldman had worked as a public relations consultant for the legal team who represented Johnny Depp. Remember that trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard? Okay. Now we got a part 3, okay? So let's put these pieces together. For the first time, find out that Savannah Guthrie's name was in the Epstein files because she was set to bring that information forward about one of those alleged victims. 2, we know that her mom was just recently kidnapped, just not too long after that last dump of files. 3, now we know that Savannah's husband worked for the Clinton administration. He was also involved with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial. 4, just a couple of days ago, Bill and Hillary Clinton, right after this latest dump of Epstein files, said they would testify in front of Congress. After they said that they would not just a couple weeks ago. Now, all of a sudden, now that these files have been released, now all of a sudden Bill and Hillary want to come testify. And it just so happened that Savannah Guthrie's mom, someone kidnapped this woman, and this woman just happens to have a member in her family that worked for the Clinton administration. And Savannah's in the Epstein files. It's almost as if someone's trying to send a message to Savannah. I don't know if they're trying to scare her. I don't know what they're trying to do, but they want money. And a lot of times with these situations, sometimes you got to look close to home. More people are saying it's probably an inside job. It's probably a family member that's demanding the money, who could have paid someone to take the mother so that they're not seen doing it and then demanding the money. That's what a lot of people are pointing towards. Or it could be that this order was put out from someone who is higher up, who is elite, because of these Epstein files. And here's the thing, we may never know. It's been a couple of days since Savannah's mom has been missing. We don't know if she's alive or not. But these are a lot of coincidences. And she did issue a statement, finally, Savannah. This is her with her siblings. I want you to hear what she said here.
We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk. However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her. We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen. Please reach out to us. Mommy, if you are hearing this, you are a strong woman. You are God's precious daughter, Nancy. We believe and know that even in this valley, He is with you. Everyone is looking for you, Mommy, everywhere. We will not rest. Your children will not rest until we are together again. We speak to you every moment, and we pray without ceasing, and we rejoice in advance for the day that we hold you in our arms again. We love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
We love you, Mom. Stay strong.
We love you, Mom.
Yeah, it just like honestly, when I first heard about this story, it sounded like a movie. It almost sounded like a movie I saw before. I was like, oh, it kind of sounds like, I like to watch thrillers sometimes. So I was like, sounds like one of those movies I watched, one of those thriller movies I've watched before. Just weird, don't you think, that someone would just take her mom? A news anchor. So I don't know what's going on here, folks, but I just find it to be very strange. It's weird to me. It is giving me creepy vibes that all of the connections is what shakes me up. Now, I don't know if this is because of the Epstein stuff or not, but I thought it was important that you see like who these people are connected to. And that Savannah Guthrie was one of the commentators, one of the anchors that did come forward with one of the victims to report about Epstein. She was one of them. I don't know, guys. It's some weird. So again, like I said, I have reasonable doubt. I really do. This is all getting kind of weird to me. And this has been a weird year. 2026 has been a weird year. Eric, let's go ahead and do the Jay-Z story now because that one takes the most time. We'll come back to the JD Vance one. So let's go ahead and go to part 3 of Type VNC. If you guys haven't had a chance to do so, could you smash that like button? Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Thank you. We're moving and moving and moving on. Let's get to this Jay-Z story. So it was revealed in the Epstein files we covered a while back that there was a tip that was sent in, and someone said that they were drugged, they woke up, they believed they were assaulted, and when they awoke, they said that they allegedly saw Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein. Now, we don't know if it's true or not. This was a tip that was sent in. But what bothered me was that some people were like, there's no way Jay-Z could have known Harvey Weinstein at that time. His album Reasonable Doubt came out in 1996. He could have never known Harvey Weinstein. And I was gonna move on from this, but it was just so much of that coming out on social media. And I really had to take a step back and say, what is this really all about? So I started to dig and I found some things. So get ready to have some reasonable doubt, because I think a lot of people assume that Jay-Z's relationship with Harvey Weinstein started off a lot later on. That's actually not true. There are literally pictures and videos out here with Jay-Z with Harvey Weinstein, and you got people on social media saying he never even knew him. Well, no, he definitely knew him. I mean, these are the more kind of recent ones, but I'm going to take you back. We are going on a journey, and I'm going to show you that he did know him, and you'll see why. Here he is with Harvey Weinstein at a function here. So this is pre-dreads, pre-locks Jay-Z. So this was years ago, right? Jay-Z's had those locks for a couple of years now.
You're the only one who ever yelled at me about away with it. And I'd take it anytime from you. I want to see him get it too.
Now it is alleged that Harvey Weinstein may have functioned as Jay-Z's handler. I don't know for certain, but I do know some things that I can show you that I found very interesting. This was an interview from Democracy Now! They were interviewing Jay-Z at this time in 2017. And I want you guys to pay close attention to this. They are asking him about mass incarceration and Donald Trump, because this was around the time, if I remember correctly, I think this was around the time when Jay-Z and Harvey Weinstein were doing the docu-series about Khalif Browder. And that does involve mass incarceration. So it makes sense that they would ask that question. And Trump was the president at the time. Watch this behavior.
In your thoughts on Donald Trump and what it means for what it means for mass incarceration.
You know what? This is a labor of love for Jay, and as a result, he's my friend. We're here to talk about that and nothing else.
Then can I ask you about mass incarceration? And do you think the movement is?
Watch it again. Play close attention. Watch how uncomfortable he gets when she mentions Trump's name. Watch.
In your thoughts on Donald Trump and what it means for
Not going to answer that. Why?
What it means for mass incarceration.
He looks to Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein then jumps in to answer for Jay-Z, almost like a handler. Jay-Z's a grown man. I mean, you just made this docuseries about mass incarceration. Donald Trump was president at that time, so I get why she asked that question. You can't answer it. The moment she said Donald Trump's name, he looked so nervous. Why? So Harvey Weinstein comes in just like a handler. Watch.
You know what? This is a labor of love for Jay, and as a result, he's my friend. We're here to talk about that and nothing else.
Oh, okay. A labor of love for Jay, and he's my friend. So for the people online who were saying that it was just business, here is Harvey Weinstein saying that Jay-Z was his friend. They were friends. It was not just a business relationship. Why couldn't they answer the question about Trump? I thought that was probably an easy question. That should have been a layup for him. Even if you don't want to get political, you could say, well, actually, I would like to talk to the president about that. I don't know. I just felt like that would have been an easy way to answer that question. But look at the expression on Jay-Z's face. Looks very uncomfortable. Harvey Weinstein is not his daddy, but he comes in like a handler. At that point, Jay-Z is a grown-ass man. And there's all these people online just saying, no, he didn't have any type of relationship with Harvey Weinstein. No, I mean, oh my God. I mean, he's only with them here. Again, these are pre-dreads, right? But it goes back even further. So people ask me and they say, do you believe that Jay-Z knew Harvey Weinstein in the 90s? Yes. And I'm going to show you how he knew him. Everyone keeps pointing to that album Reasonable Doubt, and they say that album came out in 1996. All right, cool. We have to remember that when we are first introduced to an artist or even an actor, we usually discover them when they get their big break. Sometimes it takes years for them to get to that point, and they've already been making music or having small acting gigs years prior to that. The band No Doubt said that they were a band for 8 years before they got a record deal. Did you know that? Most of us don't know until they get discovered. A lot of people didn't hear about Britney Spears until she came out with her solo album, but Britney Spears was on the Mickey Mouse Club when she was a kid. So let me show you how far back it goes. We're going to go back in time. There was a movie in 2000. It was a documentary called Backstage. I want to show you something. Backstage is a 2000 American documentary filmed by Chris Fiore. chronicling 1999 Hard Knock Life tour that featured several of hip-hop top acts, including Jay-Z, DMX, Method Man, and Redman. This is back when Method Man and Redman were rocking the boat. They were cool back then. I used to love Method Man and Redman. I came to bring the pain. Anywho, it was produced by Damon Dash. Backstage featured live performances by several members of Def Jam's roster and gave an in-depth look at what happened backstage. Now check this out. Peep this, fam. Originally, it was scheduled for a fall 1999 release, but it was released in September of 2000. Why is this important? Well, let's see who made this movie. Dimension Films. Oh dear, let's look at Dimension Films. Dimension Films. This was an American independent film production and distribution label founded in 1992, formerly a brand of one of the American mini majors, the Weinstein Company. Goes on to say here, Dimension Films was used as Harvey and Bob Weinstein's label within the brothers' own Miramax Film. So let's go back, okay? Who made this film Backstage in 2000? This documentary that featured Jay-Z. Dimension Films. Who owns Dimension Films or owned Dimension Films? We'll get into that transition later. Harvey Weinstein and Bob Weinstein. In fact, if you get a close-up of the picture here, this is the, I had to blow this up because it's so small. This is the movie poster. But if you blow up the movie poster, their names are right here. Bob Weinstein and Harvey Weinstein. So if we know that this documentary was scheduled for release in 1999, but it was released in 2000, if it was scheduled for release in 1999, we know they at least knew each other in 1999. And docuseries, you know, sometimes like documentaries and stuff, sometimes it can take years to make. Sometimes, you know, you can do it quickly. I was able to do mine rather quickly because I kind of had to do it quickly because it had a timeline to it, right? Mine involved also an election deadline. So I had to move quickly. But this could have taken a year, 2 years, you never know. But you at least know that they knew each other in 1999. Let's go back further. Just want to remind you, there was another one. It was called Rhyme and Reason, another documentary. And who was this here? That's Jay-Z. This is way back in the day. And you'll see here, under the picture, a young Jay-Z in the studio, not a household name yet. Nevertheless, he exuded a vibe and urgency that you knew this gifted artist was going to soon take off. In the mid-1990s, Peter Spearer set out to capture the vibrant hip-hop scene at a pivotal moment. Over 3 years, the filmmaker interviewed and photographed over 80 hip-hop pioneers. This included KRS-One, Dr. Dre, Chuck D, Tupac, Salt and Pepper, Curtis Blow. The list goes on and on and on. What a lot of people forget is that Jay-Z started off as a DJ. He wasn't a rapper in the beginning. So Jay-Z was still in the studio. So the documentary, Rhyme and Reason, if we go to this one here, again, this was made by Peter Spearer. This documentary was published in 1997. So now we're going back further. Let's see who made this documentary. Rhyme and Reason. Let's go on. Miramax Films, which we now know also, as it says here, it was founded by Harvey and Bob Weinstein. The point that I'm trying to make is this, ladies and gentlemen. Now that was published 1997. So now we know they at least knew each other by 1997. If we had to make a guess, at least by 1997. Could have been before that. We don't know how long it took them to make this documentary. So, now this is important because, let me go to this part here. People keep asking about this timeline. Let's go back a little bit further. Let's go back to London. Did you know that Jay-Z was also doing music in London in the 80s? We go back here. It all starts with a gentleman by the name of Jaz-O. See, it was Jaz-O and it was Jay-Z. Jaz-O was the rapper. He basically says that he taught Jay-Z everything that he knows about hip hop and the style to rap. And like I said, Jay-Z was originally the DJ, kind of like Will Smith. Remember the Fresh Prince, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince? So Jazz was the DJ and Will Smith was the rapper. You know, that was more common back then. But it said here, the boys are back in business, but here's what you should know about their questionable past. So at some point, I think it was 2019, they decided to put all this aside because they had a falling out, as things do. So let's go to London. In 1989, as part of his EMI deal, Jazz went on a trip to London to record his new album. So we're talking about Jaz-O. Jay made the trip along with a young Irv Gotti, narrowly avoiding a federal raid back in the United States, which he says would have prematurely ended his rap dreams without a reasonable doubt. Up until that London trip, my life could be mapped with a triangle: Brooklyn, Washington Heights, Trenton. Jay wrote in Decoded. Jazz's deal fizzled, but Jay used the experience as a lesson about how ruthless the industry is to artists. So for the people online who were saying his first album didn't drop until 1996, Jay-Z was in the studio working with music going all the way back to the 80s. So there was a video that went viral of a woman had an interview and she said, yeah, I met Jay-Z in London back in the 80s. And the person interviewing her said, Jay-Z was in London? She was like, yeah, he was in the studio. So you can't time someone's start based off of when their first album or their first movie drops. People, a lot of times they're working on this stuff for years. Okay? Jaz-O had a falling out with Jay-Z. Again, he says he taught Jay-Z what he knows. He taught him the rap game and all that kind of stuff. And from what he said, Jay-Z kind of went his own way. You know, I guess maybe it's an ego thing, but just kind of forgot about him. Long story short. Now, years ago, let me show you what Jaz-O said. This video was uploaded 16 years ago. It's very short. Watch this.
J Beans. J and Beans. Yeah. Yo, all that's eventual. All I gotta tell y'all is I told y'all in 2002, and y'all ain't believe me. I told y'all that nigga was a crab, and y'all ain't believe me. You know what I'm saying? How many accounts gotta come up? Dane, Biggs, R. Kelly, Kiss, Beans. I mean, the list go on. That nigga's a crab. It ain't no hate involved, but you know, you gonna see. Still biting my step. Jaz-O's the best. Secret Society with Jay-Z, man. He's involved, but he's involved with this shit, man. He involved with that play shit. Like, see, people don't understand the science behind Satan, Lucifer, and God.
Did you see what he did with his hand? You see what he did with his hands, what he said he was involved with? Again, this guy knows him. They go way back. They've known each other since they were kids.
And if you notice, he calls himself Jehovah or Hove. And before they started retranslating, you know, the New American version of the Bible, you know, Jehovah was known as a jealous God in the Bible. But I'm going to give people the simple and general understanding. that all of those people, many of those prophets in the Bible, and even when you talk about these different deities in the Bible, they were not people. Even when you go into the Egyptian pantheon, like, they weren't people. But as far as Homeboy, like, it's really a bunch of Masons. See, the whole Freemason thing is based on a lower level of understanding. Like, the real secrets have never been revealed. They weren't supposed to be revealed. So all these people, they walking around like they know something for real, but they don't really know shit. You know, and he doing those little signs and all of that. Those are symbols that have been out there. They've been propagating them shits for a few thousand years. Number one, anybody who knows how magic knows that those shits don't have any power anymore. Number two, you know, everybody knows what they basically mean, like the understanding of it, like, you know, as far as pyramid and stuff like that, that I'm not really gonna go into. But I'm saying that simply to say that dude think he knows shit, but he still don't know shit. He could get as many degrees as he want, but it's just like trying to get all degrees you want, but you still got a ceiling. He can't go but so high because the people that he worshiping, that he kissing their ass and letting them fill him up and shit, they don't know shit. They trying to find out every day from us. That's why they follow hip hop. That's why.
So yes, Moni Love. Thank you, Miles. Moni Love was in London. So you need to hear it from someone other than Jaguar Wright, because everybody's like, well, Jaguar is crazy or whatever. I've heard people say that, but this is someone who grew up with him. So yes, Jay-Z's a billionaire, but Jay-Z also has a boss. And based on what I saw from that interview that was there, it almost seemed like Harvey Weinstein was kind of like his handler, the way he stepped in like that. Now, Harvey's in jail now, right? And what is interesting to me is that so many people want to come to his defense, but I mean, what is Jay-Z doing for the Black community? Because what about the people that were displaced because of the Barclays? They used Jay-Z's face so that the neighborhood, the people would get behind it. And I want you to hear from the people who were like, no, this was straight up displacement, and they used his face to sell it. When I first heard about this, I thought that Jay-Z was buying a basketball team, but that was not the case. Listen to this.
The Barclays deal was one of the most horrible deals ever done, especially in sports. They played Jay-Z like a fiddle. They played the community like a fiddle.
At the end of the day, when the stuffy businessmen were like, how can we gain momentum in terms of gaining public support behind this? Who's the person that are we going to reach out to? Robert De Niro? Are we going to reach? No, we got to get Jay-Z.
They put him on a big billboard in Times Square as an owner of the team. And a lot of people really thought that he was actually the owner of the team.
They would not have been able to sail through, those that own the majority part of the Nets, all of the issues that had to do with zoning and rezoning, et cetera, without having someone like a Jay-Z involved.
I think it's a case of Jay-Z pimping corporate America as much as corporate America is pimping Jay-Z.
Politics is a messy business, and local politics might be messier than national politics. So for Jay to have discovered this in the course of pursuing this professional basketball team for Brooklyn, what did he expect?
I am one of the people who was affected by Barclays. We didn't even know that it was going to be related to Jay-Z or called Barclays or anything. We just were told that we would need to move. Like, we knew.
They were told that they would need to move. That is displacement and gentrification that came in. And Jay-Z backed it all the way. And an entire community of people were displaced. And this is what I'm talking about. And by the way, if you are one of those people and you ever want to come on, please email me. My email address is in the description part of my videos. Email me. I'll bring you on the show, because one of the things I'm really against is displacement. You guys can see I have a whole documentary about this. So the thing is this. When it came down to helping the Black community, I mean, really helping the Black community, Jay-Z chose corporate America. Jay-Z looked out for himself. And if you seem to have some type of idol or worship or obsession with Jay-Z, I don't really know what to tell you. I'm not here to tell you you have to hate Jay-Z. What I am here to tell you is is that he's not perfect, and he did have a relationship with Harvey Weinstein in the 90s. And there's so many people trying to run cover for some man that don't know you, don't want to protect you, don't do shit for you. A man who became a billionaire because he sold out to corporate America. And honestly, the way that he kind of moved, people wonder if he was a Fed. It wouldn't be the first time that it happened in the hip hop industry. Look at someone like Pras. So he was not looking out for the people when he told you, yes, let's do Barclays. This is going to be great. He was looking out for his pocket. Otherwise, people wouldn't have been displaced. Your heroes, as I've said before, are not to be celebrities or politicians. The heroes are supposed to be the people that are in your community, your mom, your sister, your brother, your neighbor, the people who really doing the daily grind, not someone who made a lot of money by selling motherfuckers out. And I stand firm on that. We go on to see, and this is the part that is also rather interesting. We go on to see, and it was said back then, this interview, I remember covering this. Jaguar Wright, she went on to Piers Morgan's show, and everybody says, oh, they're like, she's crazy. She don't know what she's talking about, yada, yada. Okay. But as time goes by, you start to see some of these things she said are pretty true. After this interview, Piers Morgan had to make a statement that Jay-Z and Beyonce's lawyers contacted him and said it needed to be removed. And Rock Nation has moved that way before, where they have access to journalists, especially Black journalists, and they will contact them and tell them to take it down if it's something negative about Jay-Z. Listen to what she said.
Jeffrey Epstein, Robert Kelly, Sean Combs have one person in common, professionally and privately. Sean Carter.
And look at what happened to all of them. Diddy's in jail. Weinstein went to jail. Epstein went to jail. Was either killed, died, alive. We don't really know. But they all went to jail. All of those people connected to Jay-Z. Everybody went to jail except for Jay-Z. I mean, I'm not saying, I'm just saying. Put two and two together. We even go into this part here, which I also found interesting. If you look at this organization, United Justice Coalition, sounds good, right? Let's look at the advisory board. Let's see who's on this board. Watch, I'm gonna prove something to you. Watch this. Some of you may not know, but I'm gonna point out some people that I think you do know. Benjamin Crump is there. He's the one that represents a lot of the civil rights cases, police brutality cases. There's Michael Eric Dyson. He's there. Rock with me now. There is Charlemagne the God. Hold on to that one, that name. That's important. Let's keep going. Van Jones is there with his pro-Israel genocide ass. Let's keep going. There's Gayle King. So you got media, 1, 2, and Charlemagne, 1, 2, 3. You got media. Let's keep going. Going. This guy right here, Alex Spiro. Do you know who this is? Alex Spiro was Elon Musk's lawyer. Interesting, huh? Yeah. And when you get to the very bottom, there's Jay-Z. So let me ask you a question, folks. This organization, United Justice Coalition, I'm not here to knock the organization, but what I'm saying is when you look at the players that are part of this coalition, if something comes out against one of these people, do you think the United Coalition for Justice is going to say, okay, we need to get justice for the people that you are alleged of harming? No. They got the media with Van Jones and Gayle King. They got Jay-Z on there. They got Alex Spiro, who's Elon Musk's lawyer. They got Charlemagne the God. What did Charlemagne the God say about the Jay-Z info and the Epstein files? He quickly came to Jay-Z's defense, if I remember correctly. So what I'm saying is you have all this protection in one space. And you got some Zionists on there. It's hilarious that you have Zionists be a part of a coalition called the United Justice Coalition. There was a prediction. I don't know if anybody ever saw this woman. We'll get to her in just a second, actually. I want to show you what this girl said. Because Jay-Z has not made a statement.
Jay-Z, we need an explanation because this is not any random person out here hating on you. This is your previous business colleague writing Jeffrey Epstein in 2014 saying that you basically sold out the Black community. This is not Onika or all the people that you want to say are hating on you and saying whatever. This is Jess Saley writing Jeffrey Epstein in 2014 saying, you want to know why we are not Sao Paulo? Watch the TV ads on the Super Bowl. It's all about hip Blacks and hip cars with white women. The group that should be in the streets has been bought off by Jay-Z.
This was during the height of the Colin Kaepernick. Remember Colin Kaepernick kneeling and all that kind of stuff when they were calling for people to boycott and everything. So let's just all remember again, that was Jess Staley, who is a banker who's in the Epstein files multiple times, but he's a banker. He was basically saying that Jay-Z was selling out his own people because Jay-Z was basically there as a distraction, whether it's through music or whatever, to prevent people from getting out into the streets.
Let me show you who Jess Staley is. This is Jess Staley. You know him. He's a banker. He's the former CEO at the Barclays. And let's look at your association with the Barclays, Jay. Jay-Z is deeply connected to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, having headlined its inaugural concert series in 2012. This man wrote that email in 2014, opened it as a symbol of Brooklyn's revitalization because no one really protested the gentrification like they typically would because Jay-Z's from Marcy, he's Brooklyn's own. So it was a very good selling point having Jay-Z be the face of this. Yep. And he even held a small ownership stake around 0.5% to 1%, which he later sold, though his entrepreneurial spirit helped him bring the venue and the Nets to his home borough. This man said that you was a sellout, Jay-Z. Is there an activist group that was paid off to not protest or boycott this happening in Brooklyn?
Again, he is on the advisory board of the United Justice Coalition, but he didn't want to support that justice. So you see the problem?
Does anyone know that? Was there an activist group in Brooklyn that typically would protest against these type of efforts that for some reason did not do it in this situation that was bought off? Just asking questions. We need a statement.
Yeah, and he's not issuing a statement. Also, remember, we mentioned Diddy earlier. When Diddy went to jail, Jay-Z had nothing to say. No statement, no nothing. Wasn't that his friend? If your friend went to jail, you have nothing to say. So, yeah, I have reasonable doubt that when people say, well, Jay-Z didn't know these people, no, that's not what the evidence is showing. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this woman
colleague writing Jeffrey Epstein in 2014 saying that you basically sold out the Black community.
Sorry.
This is not Onika or all the people that you want to say are hating on you and saying whatever.
Sorry, she came back. But anyway, this woman here, her name is Sloan Bella. She made this prediction. Listen to this.
We are in 2024. This is whatever month this is. This is March, the beginning of 2024. So we are headed for the next 3 years, 25, 26, and 27, with the beginning initial stages of the knockdown when it comes to Jay-Z. He is not next in line. He is second to next in line because he's still attached to a hierarchy which encompasses financial, political, and just basically public. So he's not absolutely going to be taken down yet. The next 3 years, yes, there are steps where if he doesn't fall into line, he is going to be shaken up. Now, what I do see 3 years from now, him, his wife, and his kid, I see them with suitcases, and I literally see them leaving. So their residence will no longer be in the United States.
Sounds similar to Russell Simmons, right? How he packed up and got out of here. She made that prediction a couple years ago. So it looks like Jay-Z's, I don't know, protection is starting to fall here. But the reality is, like I said, for the people who are saying he couldn't have possibly known Harvey Weinstein. Yes, he did. So this is why I say you can't have idols, you can't have heroes. You got to get out of that mentality and look at things for what they really are. Now, does that mean that he actually did something to these people? We don't know. We don't know. But what was driving me crazy is that people were willing to seriously lie after they had receipts right in front of them and say, no, he never knew that man. You should have reasonable doubt. All right. Oh, yay. Butch. All right. Butch is here. Yay. Okay. We're going to go ahead and bring in our next guest. And then after that, we'll do the JD Vance story. So our special guest is Butch Ware. He was the vice president for Jill Stein's 2024 presidential campaign. He is now running for governor of California as a Green. Let's bring him back in. What's up, Butch?
What's good, Sabby? How you been?
Been good. How are you?
No complaints just yet. I'm recovering from a sore throat. I was out in Minneapolis yelling at ICE last week, and it turns out that doing that in 15 degree below zero weather is not like the best thing for your vocal cords, but we coming back together.
All right. Well, I want to start off with this because I didn't know. I did not know.
Come on.
I didn't know you could rap. I didn't know this, so I gotta play this for people. Let's go ahead and. So, guys, Butch created a music video for like his campaign, and he's rapping. And I just thought this was so good. So I'm gonna play this.
They not like us. Beware freestyle, ready, aim, bust. About to pop out and show them on God, it's a promise. Yeah, I'm coming for Trump. Fascists get demolished, Republican and Democrat. I drone strike like Obama at a Yemeni wedding. Double tapping the drama for Team Blue and Team Red. It's about to get drastic, blacked out and redacted like your Epstein files. Nasty, freaky, and tragic. Your politics are disgusting, and we gotta get past it. Pass the mic, watch me blast it like Nas on Illmatic. Got a manic, frantic, scrambling in the day's panic. You know they can't stand it, body all in a verse. Handle light work first. Eric Swalwell, all hell, back up the hearse. Eric Swalwell for Israel and Cape for the cops. Wrote a thank you note to Ice Kid, I kid you not. He dropped draws for APAC, me I rep Tupac. And the Panthers like a Fanny Good and plenty, catching many. Katie Porter up next. Hershey beat up her ex, and she screamed at her staff. Power storm off the set, they want you drowning in debt. I get free healthcare in college, lay it down as a bet. Professor Ware dropping knowledge and dropping housing costs, and show them who the boss. Power back to the people, everyone free and equal. They care and buses too. We taking care of you, not the billionaires of Zionists that run Team Blue and Team Red alike. It's time to pass the mic and let a real opposition party into the fight. That brings us back to Team Red. Them fascists want us all dead. I'm gunning straight for the top. The fish rots from the head. Stay Trump. I heard you like I'm young. You in them PDF files, nigga. You must think we dumb. We ain't slow like you. And I know I struck a chord. A minor is the key, cause you grape them in their teens and your little maggots. Bianco and Hilton, they all the same to me. They want ice up in the streets, so we fighting back. Coalition on a mission. Asian, Black, and Latino, and all the working class gringos, brown and native peoples, and all the fuck who love freedom. We taking Cali back. They not like us. Step up, help me beat them.
Butch, I had no idea.
Are we having fun yet?
I didn't know you could rap. I was like, oh my God, Butch raps.
I mean, listen, I came up wanting to be one of two things, either a rapper or a baseball player. I ended up getting a baseball scholarship, but I had a demo tape when I was 19 years old. I got in an argument with my studio engineer. He pulled a gun on me when we were working on the demo, and I just decided to take a break from music for a while. And next thing I knew, I had a PhD, and I was, doing all of the things that I've been doing ever since then. But I never gave up the love for music. And so when we were sitting down with the team, talking about how we can break through the mainstream media, silencing of us, we're like, we got to create some virality. And I'm like, let me spit. I'll just do a diss track. It'll be the first ever political ad in the form of a diss track.
I thought it was I think it's genius. I think it's such a great idea. I was like, nobody is doing this. Like, nobody.
Well, first of all, they could never. I mean, there's no way that any of these other people in the political domain, I heard Mamdani, has bars, and I would love, we could have an East Coast, West Coast beef between me and Mamdani on some rap stuff. But I mean, other than that, I don't think anybody could even try to do it.
Wow. So Butch, tell me how it's going. I didn't know. So Katie Porter is also running.
Yep.
So she beat up her husband?
Yeah, I mean that's the story. So there were court filings that became public, from the divorce proceedings. And like any good diss track, you have to do your research. And we had seen how Katie, we saw the video of her screaming at her staff and losing her temper, and then we saw her in the interview with CBS Sacramento threaten to get up and walk off the set. I don't know if you saw that a couple months ago. So it was just it was there. So I think the line was. Is a transition. I talked about Swalwell first and then went to Katie Porter, because Swalwell and Porter are the two leading Democrats right now. They're both polling around 15%. We've actually gotten up to 5% in one of these polls, which is 5 times where Mamdani was in February before his primary. And I just want people to understand, we don't need to get to 50%. We need to get to top 2 in the primary, which is going to be about 15 to 17%. So we're a third of the way there. And I just figured I'd just go for their chins, go after Swalwell and Katie Porter first. So the bar was body y'all in a verse, handle light work first. Eric Swalwell, all hell, back up the hearse. Eric swallow well for Israel and cape for the cops. He wrote a thank you note to Ice Kid, I kid you not. He dropped draws for APAC, me I rep Tupac, and the Panthers like a Fenny, good and plenty, catching many. Katie Porter up next. Hershey beat up her ex, and she screamed at her staff, pout and storm off the set. They want you drowning in debt. We'll get free healthcare in college. Lay it down, it's a bet. Professor Ware dropping knowledge.
I just didn't know Katie. I didn't know Katie was throwing bows like that, but I guess here we are. But no, this is real. That's really good news, Butch. What has it been like so far? Because I know it seems like Gavin Newsom is probably going to try to run for president.
Mm-hmm.
How are people feeling in California? It's one of the most expensive states to live in right now.
I mean, the affordability crisis is crushing people. And I released, another campaign ad today. I mean, they're not all raps. So this one was just a conventional campaign ad about housing first as a basic policy platform, for the campaign. And the idea is, listen, nobody gets seconds until everybody eats except for housing. So we are going to tax all of these private equity firms that have all of these vacant properties that are making it so people can't afford to live here. Because the reality is, it's like the cost of living crisis in the state of California is similar to that in New York, is really rooted in inflationary housing costs. And until we get private equity out, we're not going to be able to make it a place that people can afford. And it's crazy because right now, like in the city of San Francisco, there are 14 vacant properties for every homeless person that's sleeping on the street.
Shahid Buttar, he came on a while back when he was running against Nancy Pelosi, and he was saying the same thing. He said, we do have housing. Yep. It's just like people can't afford it. Yeah, that's wild, man. And I can bet now, especially since in San Francisco right now, the Super Bowl is going to be there this weekend.
Yep.
So I imagine everything probably increased for the weekend.
Everything's insanely expensive, but me being the counterculture revolutionary that I am, we actually organize a socialist Super Bowl party in the Bay this weekend. So I don't know if you even heard about this, but on Saturday the 7th, so the day before the Super Bowl, because on Super Bowl Sunday, we're going to be out doing the ICE protests with everybody else, that's in town. But on Saturday before the Super Bowl, so Roger Waters, like Pink Floyd himself, Roger Waters is going to be singing at a campaign fundraiser for us on Saturday, February 7th. No joke. Roger Waters contacted me out of the blue, I don't know if you saw this interview. He did this months ago. He said, "Where's our Mao Zedong? Where is our Vladimir Lenin? Maybe it's Butch Ware." He said, "Will he be governor of California? I bloody well hope so." So Roger reached out to me and said, "I want to do a benefit concert for your campaign." So Pink Floyd himself, Roger, is going to be singing on Saturday. Hey, listen, Sabby, catch a flight, man. We'll comp you everything that you can come in, you can cover the event. Because when I told Lauren Haregi, who's sang with Fifth Harmony, brilliant artist, like 12 million followers on Instagram, she said, "I'll sing too." So she's coming through to sing. Sammy Obeid is doing a comedy set at the venue. Angelica Ross is flying in to do a speech, and then I'm gonna give a talk to bring it all home. So we're doing like literally like this whole socialist Super Bowl party. We're calling it Revolutionary Rally Butch Ware for Cali. That's the event.
That is awesome, Butch. Holy smokes, man. You've really taken off. Like you really have. We just had Anthony Aguilar was on here earlier tonight. There's like a wave of green candidates right now.
Green wave.
Anthony, Greg Stoker. Yeah.
And I mean, the reality is that there's never been a better time for people to get off of the duopoly plantation. I saw recent numbers. My team gave them to me that the latest numbers are that 47% of Americans now identify themselves politically as independents, and that's down to like 25% Democrat, 25% Republican. Like, people are starting to realize that these two corporate parties, they not like us. And like, that was literally the argument of the piece, is that they work for the ruling class, and we need a party that's for the working class. We need candidates that are for the working class. So that's really the argument of the piece. And I wanted to make it clear that like, we're coming for blue genociders and red fascists alike, and we're trying to give like the people an alternative that isn't bought and paid for by pedophile genocide money.
No, it's just like you're doing such a great job, Butch. You really are. And California is one of the states. I look at this report once a year. It's the out of reach cost of living report. Yep. And California is one of those states where people are kind of fleeing in droves because of the cost of living there. And it's crazy. But I think people just, I mean, what do people have to lose? Because, I mean, are there Republicans running in California?
There's two. They were at the very end of the verse. And I said, "And your little maggots, Bianco and Hilton, they all the same to me. They want ice up in the streets." They're just little maggots. They're little versions of Donald Trump. One of them was a sheriff in one of the inland counties where he was known for racially profiling and abusing people of color, especially Mexican Americans. And Hilton is like, he's like a real life Austin Powers character. He's a British guy that wants to be the governor. Like he's basically like Dr. Evil, bald headed British dude with that doesn't think things through very well. So they're really lousy candidates across the board. No candidate has been able to lock down like significant position in the poll. And they've done everything that they can to keep me out of the large candidate debates, because the first debates that took place during the summer, I was involved in all of those, and they were such bloodbaths for the Democrats. Like, for example, the SEIU Local 1000, there was 1,000 people in a room, 3.5 hour debate. When they closed the door and held the vote, I won hands down. We had people in the room that were there for the head count. And literally they had to say, "We know that Butch won the debate. Outside of that, what did you want to talk about or ask about?" And so from that point on, they've been doing everything they can to keep me out of the forums. But the good news is that the big main televised debate right before the election, this is happening April 28th. CBS Sacramento is carrying it, and it's running throughout the state. We've already been invited to that. So they're going to do everything that they can, to block our shine, but we're not falling for the shine blockers. We are going to pierce through. We're going to keep coming with this messaging, and we'll get creative about it if we have to. If I got to spit, a new freestyle every week just to break the algorithm, to get out of the algo ghetto, then we'll do what we got to do.
Well, it's really interesting because, for all the spoiler talk, right? I'm trying to get people out of that way of thinking. Oh no, if I vote third party, then I'm voting for a spoiler. But in the case of California, I mean, like you said, there's two Republican candidates. They're not gonna, it's California. So this is the time for people to really, for all the people who said, "Well, I wanted to vote for Jill Stein, but I didn't want to be a spoiler," even though that's not even how elections work, because Jill Stein didn't receive any electoral college votes. I need people to understand how elections actually work. But the thing is that there's no excuse for California.
It's the perfect storm. So here's why it's the perfect storm. So there are more registered independents in the state of California than there are registered Republicans. So that they are very vulnerable to an attack from the left. And it's a jungle primary. So it's the top two advance irrespective of party. So if we get to say the second place position, and it's me against Eric Swalwell, Eric Swalwell for Israel. If it's me against Gavin Newsom Jr., which is all Eric is, he's a AIPAC taking pro cop ICE agent, right? If it's me versus him, and there's no Republican in the race, where is their lesser of two evils arguments? What are they going to say? And what I've been telling people is, listen, even if you don't believe that I can beat them, which would you rather have? The Democrats chasing a Republican to the right, or them having to deal with me? And constantly bringing a working class agenda that is about collective liberation into our national politics. What I already know is that if we're able to get to the second place position on June 2nd, 2026, 6226, that the duopoly breaks that day, because there's actually no scenario in which either of the duopoly parties can survive me in a final. If a Republican somehow sneaks through, I'm going to take all of that Democrat vote and destroy that Republican. If it's me versus Team Blue, then all of those independent and Republican leaning voters, I don't know if people understand this. More people were leaving Team Red to vote green in 2024 than left Team Blue to vote green. The last two polls that came out before the elections indicated this. And because people hear me banging on the Dems for their corruption and for what Gavin Newsom is, and a lot of these Republican voters, to be perfectly honest, yes, some of them are MAGA, some of them are KKK types, but a bunch of them just don't see the difference between blue criminals and red criminals, and all other things being equal would rather pay lower taxes, literally. And so if they see somebody that isn't attached to the Democrat establishment, they're happy to vote for a candidate that's not from inside that corrupt Democrat structure. So the point is if we are able to break through to 15 to 18% on June 2nd, they're dead. And just imagine what it would be like to get the third largest economy in the world out of corporate control. It means we're bringing universal health care. It means we're bringing housing first. It means we're protecting human rights, everybody's human rights. And it means ICE abolition, because I'm not complying with any unconstitutional federal orders. ICE is going to have to go through every lawyer and law enforcement officer in the state of California before they touch a hair on the head of any California resident when I'm in the governor's mansion.
Well, so you're talking to everybody then.
Everybody. We're not leaving any votes on the table. And we have built a political infrastructure from San Diego in the south through Humboldt County in the north, in rural areas, Inland Empire, Central Valley, because I'm not a Democrat. I don't believe that you should just leave white working class voters in the lurch and not give them any messaging. It was actually in the song too. It was So we fighting back, coalition on a mission, Asian, Black, and Latino, and all my working class gringos, brown and native peoples, and all the folk who love freedom. We taking Cali back. They not like us. Step up, help me beat them. We are building a coalition that hasn't existed before in politics, because I'm not a candidate that's existed before in electoral politics.
Wow, this is I think that's such a great idea. Again, I feel like the Democratic Party, they sold out a long time ago. There was a question for you about the bill. Thank you, Kevin. Butch, do you support the billionaire bill that the unions have put together to combat the cuts to healthcare? And we got you here in Oakland, homie.
Yeah, I mean, home of the Panthers, so we already know what it is. And we'll be, by the way, in Oakland tomorrow evening at First Friday, so come on out. And then our event is going to be in San Leandro on Saturday. I go even further than the contemporary union bill. So my position is wealth tax on the billionaires, and then also a 2% income tax increase, not just the wealth tax, but the income tax increase on the billionaires. There are 186 billionaires in the state of California. If you increase their income tax by 2%, nobody in the state of California that makes $100K or less would pay a penny in state taxes. Right? Because it doesn't make sense that we have 186 billionaires in this state and 187,000 people sleep on the streets every night. That cannot stand. You hear these Democrats talking about, well, California is the 4th largest economy. First of all, they're wrong. If you separated the states into 50 independent republics, California would be the 3rd largest economy behind China and Germany. It goes China, Germany, California. That's the order, right? Except what they always leave out of the equation is that California is also the highest state with respect to wealth inequality. A recent study showed that California has poverty levels that are equal to those of Louisiana. So look at this disparity. We cannot persist in this state, right? So there are 9 families in Silicon Valley that control $683 billion of wealth. And I was doing food distribution at homeless encampments in San Jose within miles of where these, billionaires live. It can't persist. So it's not about the fake culture war that the Democrats and Republicans have been trying to stage between so-called left and so-called right, because we know both of those are right-wing parties. That's not even a real distinction. Instead, it's just about the top versus bottom. It's about, kitchen table, working class coalition that is going to get the power back to the people.
Yeah, I was going to say, we did a millionaire tax here in Massachusetts, and that went towards some infrastructure issues, but also giving every kid free breakfast and free lunch at public schools. And there was uproar before it happened, because it was a ballot measure, and there was uproar, and they were like, all the rich people were going to leave. And I was like, you guys aren't going anywhere. So yeah, but it passed. I mean, that's like a big thing. I think a lot of times, because we both live in ballot measure states, like California is a ballot measure state as well. I think a lot of times that's why I tell people don't stay home. That's why I tell people, no, you have to vote, especially if you're in a ballot initiative state. Like, these things are going to pass with or without you. So, it's up to you, that type of thing.
Yeah. And the thing is, we have to get people out of the learned helplessness that they're in, right? A lot of people have skepticism with respect to electoral politics. So they sit home, but it was really Malcolm. It was Malcolm is like my principal inspiration. He's literally always right behind me on my desk over my shoulder, because, Malcolm, I read his autobiography when I was 15. I converted to Islam before the end of the week, and I became I became radicalized in that moment. And what Malcolm said in the Ballad of the Bullet, he said, we're going to knock on every door in Harlem, and we're going to register every black face behind every door, not as a Democrat, not as a Republican, but independent. And then he said, we're going to say, show us your card. And anybody that didn't have the responsibility to register themselves, he said, we just might move them out of town. And then he said, it's going to be the ballot or the bullet. Malcolm was a true revolutionary, but people don't understand that by any means necessary means by any means necessary. And the Panthers who farmed in the field that Malcolm cleared, their cocktail was mutual aid plus direct action plus electoral power. And that's why Huey P. Newton ran for Congress twice, why Bobby Seale ran for mayor in Oakland. We actually need to get out of the idea that we can't change anything through electoral politics, because actually building electoral power, as long as you understand it is not the end all and be all of our organizing, it can be a critical part of our effective organizing for liberation.
Yeah. Okay. Let me give you this question. These two here, Butch. From Roger. Butch, why did you repost on X calling your own community coons when all they were doing was expressing concern of negative impact?
I can tell you all about it. So this is coming from the so-called FBA and ADOS group, the people that said we're going to sit out these ICE protests because what have Mexicans ever done for us? And they came with all of this anti-immigrant sentiment. So what I did was quoted to them what Malcolm had said about solidarity with oppressed people and Latino communities. And what I said is that these are Uncle Ruckus type traitors, because they are not even standing up for their own liberation. If you don't understand that a struggle against white supremacy is our freedom struggle, then you don't understand the first thing about Black liberation, because the Panthers were 10 toes down down for fighting against the rise of a police state and for fighting against the oppression of our immigrant brothers and sisters. Malcolm was 10 toes down for this. And every revolutionary Pan-Africanist has understood that the struggle against a Gestapo police state that comes after immigrants is a police state that's going to come after you too. And it's collective liberation, or it ain't no liberation at all.
Well, FBA isn't an organization. It is a lineage. I mean, technically, like, I'm FBA too.
I'm FBA also. My family goes back to my family goes back to Ware County, Georgia. But what I'm saying is some people that rep FBA essentially think of Blackness as exclusionary, and we're basically arguing, yeah, let them come take Jamaican immigrants. Let them come after Somalis. Let them come after Mexican Americans. I have been 10 toes down for reparations for foundational Black Americans for decades, and the Green Party has stood on that, and we will continue to stand on that. But that does not obviate the need for us to struggle for collective liberation, because I'm also a revolutionary Pan-Africanist. Those teachers of ours told us to struggle against white supremacy in all its forms. And for those people, especially those that want to fall for the divide and conquer techniques, frankly, of those who would seek to divide Black communities. Granted, like, people need to be educated about what Black folks that have been in the belly of the beast for 4 centuries have endured, and why we have endured a unique forms of oppression. But at the same time, it has to be about getting everybody free. You can't just say this is about getting us free and not others.
So I'll say this. I do think sometimes it seems like everyone is pointing their fingers at the Black community to link up and fight for everybody else, but it seems like it's not the other way around. I will say that. Like, it seems like it's like we're supposed to go lead this charge when it's,
Yeah.
this is something, like, I grew up as a military kid, and it was just one of those things that I noticed once I got out of that environment, just how segregated the United States really is.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it does kind of seem like there's a lot of push to, well, Black people, you have to go join this group of people and help fight with them. But it's like I don't hear it the other way around sometimes. I will say that.
There's no question that there's a double standard that's being applied, and there's no question that there is anti-Blackness that is at the root of some immigrant sentiment towards foundational Black Americans. Those things are without debate, and we as Black folks don't owe anybody else anything. We owe ourselves and our ancestors liberation. We owe Frederick Douglass. We owe Malcolm X. We owe Assata Shakur. We owe Kwame Ture. And they were all people that taught us that it was collective liberation, or it wasn't liberation at all, and that white supremacy is our enemy. But we should never be letting people have a pass for disrespecting or disregarding what African Americans specifically have contributed to this place, because without our efforts, this place wouldn't exist in the way that it is. Liberty as we know it wouldn't exist, because we have been at the forefront of defining the stakes for freedom, for humanity for centuries, because we have been struggling against the most brutal forms of white supremacist oppression. So my call was not to be an echo for others that are calling us to show up. That's not what it's about. It's a call from inside the house saying that it is our responsibility for our own liberation, because that's why the Panthers made those connections with the Young Lords, the Brown Berets, the Young Patriots, because they understood that if it's just about my tribe getting free, then none of our tribes are getting free. It's not until we make coalitions for our collective liberation. And yeah, there's a lot of unlearning of anti-Blackness that is needed in order for that to be successful. No two ways about that.
Yeah. It would have been good to say that instead of Coons, but
listen, I call them like I see them. And the reason is that a lot of it, frankly, I mean, I wasn't talking to everybody, but there were certain people that were saying completely out of pocket, wild things that were just plainly factually incorrect. And when people start selling off our tradition of struggle for lies, for tribalism, and start policing Massa's fence line for him. Because ultimately, when you start talking about, well, I'm only here for African Americans, I'm not interested in Caribbean Black people, it was one stop away on the slave ship. Right. And so you are now defining your entire identity by the colonial boundaries that enclosed you, whereas people like Frantz Fanon, Amilcar Cabral, Malcolm X, Huey P. Newton, and Assata Shakur taught us to see our Blackness as rooted in a broader African and diasporic freedom struggle. And if we are going to get free as African Americans, Malcolm put it best. He said, you cannot get free in Mississippi unless you understand what is going on in the Congo.
Well, Butch, I mean, you got a lot coming up, so good luck this weekend. Again,
Appreciate
like I said,
you.
I do think it's really cool that there is like this wave of people coming through third party this time around, like for these congressional races as well. And then one more question: have you reached out to Ozapac?
What's Ozapac?
So Ozapac just they're an anti-Zionist pack. They just, I think, picked up Anthony Aguilar. Yeah, they just picked up Anthony, but they also have Jose Vega. But they're nonpartisan, but their main purpose is to, oh, wait, no, you can't because you're running for governor. Never mind. Never mind. That makes sense. I forgot. It's a Congress thing. Never mind. Maybe that's something they should consider. Maybe they should not just focus on Congress, but their goal is to get Zionist politicians out of Congress.
Yeah, well, we can all root for that, and again, it was that Black internationalism that's what allowed us, Black liberation heroes, to know that Zionism was the enemy. Malcolm, in his field notebooks from Khan Yunis in 1964 about the Palestinian liberation struggle, he said that this is a white Jewish population that's being empowered by white imperialists to knock Arabs off their land. When we understand that our freedom struggles as Black folks in America are situated in broader freedom struggles against capitalism, imperialism, and white supremacy, that's when we're the most dangerous to the system. That's when they came for Fred Hampton. That's when they came for Malcolm. That's when they came for Assata Shakur. So I'm always going to be standing 10 toes down for our people here, but I'm always going to be standing 10 toes down for collective liberation as well.
All right, Butch, where can people follow your campaign?
butchwareforgov.com, and you can always follow me on Instagram at butchware on any of the platforms.
All right. Thank you so much, Butch.
Appreciate you. Take care.
Bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Butch Ware, who's running for governor of California. Go check out his website, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, there's a slew of Green Party candidates that are coming through. We have one more story. I promise I won't keep you guys much too longer. Eric, can we go to back to the second type VNC? Yeah, we're going to do that JD Vance story because I don't want to forget about that one as well, and his crazy ass. So let's make sure we get into that. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't had a chance to do so, do me a solid and smash that like button. Thank you. We're continuing on with reasonable doubt, and you need to have reasonable doubt about what JD Vance just said to Megyn Kelly in this interview about the New World Order. Like, they're not even trying to hide it. He's saying this out in the open. And let me tell you something I noticed here, okay? JD Vance, you see, people are funny. JD Vance goes and he runs his ass over to Megyn Kelly's podcast, right? Since that last batch just dropped of the Epstein files, JD Vance went completely silent on Twitter for days. JD didn't say nothing. Megyn Kelly went all of a sudden, Megyn Kelly had nothing to say. Very quiet. So JD Vance goes, and it's almost like he ran over to Megyn Kelly as a shield. Let's get into this part of the discussion here, the foreign policy part here. The New World Order, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this.
Like you think it's bad when we have a domestic terror attack where a couple of people die, and you're right. What happens when the same people who are shooting up a mall or driving airplanes into buildings have a nuclear weapon? That is unacceptable. And it's not just them, because if the Iranians get a nuclear weapon, you know who gets a nuclear weapon like the next day? The Saudi Arabians, and then somebody else in the Gulf Arab state. And so you have nuclear proliferation on a global scale. The biggest threat to security in the world is a lot of people having nuclear weapons.
So, to your own point there, Mr. J.D. Vance, no one should have nuclear weapons. This is the rule of thumb, okay? Either every country gets the opportunity to have them or no one has them. I feel as though no one should have nuclear weapons. This is what it is. But you really can't sit there and tell other countries in the Middle East that they can't have a nuclear weapon when Israel has a nuclear weapon. This is the crazy part. Notice these terms they continue to use. Well, we got to do this because of national security. Well, we have to protect our democracy. These are the buzzwords that they throw around. It's not about national security. It's not about protecting democracy. It's about basically trying to make Israel as powerful as they can so that we can have one place of concentrated power. And if that means that the concentrated power will be in the Middle East, that's more beneficial, at least for the West, the way that they see it, because there's a lot of oil and gas in that area, etc. Now, I'll get to, when we get to the second part, I'm going to tell you what's probably going to happen in order for that to take place. That's the part people don't want to admit. But there's a lot of hypocrisy here. You're saying that, well, other countries can't get nuclear weapons. Then nobody should have them.
So what the president has said is Iran's not going to get a nuclear weapon. We're going to work with China and Russia and any country, whether they're friend or whether we're a little more competitive, to try to draw down the amount of nuclear weapons that exist in the world. I think that's the most important thing you could do for peace and stability. And the question is, what do you do to enforce that red line? Okay, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. That is the stated policy goal of the president of the United States. It's so funny. Sometimes you have people who are saying, well, the president's too belligerent. And then sometimes you have people who say, well, the president, he's talking about diplomacy and he's talking about negotiating with the Iranians. We shouldn't negotiate. We should just bomb them. What the president's going to do is he's going to keep his options open. He's going to talk to everybody. He's going to try to accomplish what he can through non-military means. And if he feels like the military is the only option, then he's ultimately going to choose that option. I can't, I'm not, obviously, even if I knew what.
I can't, obviously, if I knew. I can't tell you.
We were going to do, I would not tell you, and your many millions of listeners. But I feel like people have to remember that this is not about, like, look, I grew up in the Iraq generation. I literally, I enlisted in the Marine Corps as an idealistic young kid right after 9/11. I went to Iraq in 2000, or I enlisted in 2003. I went to Iraq in 2005. I am very cognizant that the Middle East leads to quagmires. Trust me, so is the President of the United States. And we're hearing that. We know that's out there. But more importantly, we know the history. And the president he has no interest in repeating the history of Iraq. What he does want to make sure is that there's a totally separate issue, which is you don't let crazy people get nuclear weapons and then lead to a nuclear arms race all over the world.
Well, then the United States shouldn't have nuclear weapons, because I think we all know we're crazy as hell. I mean, when you're talking about who's really a threat to peace, it's us. It's not Iran, it's not Russia, it's not China, it's the United States. We're the ones that start wars all over the world. We're the ones that overthrow leaders in other countries. We're the one. We had a war with Afghanistan for 20 years. We're the threat. If we would have just left these countries alone, like, these people would be chilling. A lot of these countries would be thriving at this point in time. But no, like, we had to go and fuck it up. Us and the UK, by the way. So it's just, it's laughable to me.
I mean, you tell me whether this is about nuclear weapons right now or not, but what we're seeing in Iran is these protests on the street, not as much anymore because they've been killing a lot of the protesters, but it's, should we go in there and help the protesters get rid of this regime, like get rid of the Ayatollah, which, let's face it, it's much different in Iran. The regime goes well beyond the Ayatollah. It's not like Venezuela where you take out Maduro. It's a lot more complex. Even if we got rid of the Ayatollah, there'd be a whole bunch of others just like him, part of the regime. And so the last thing most Americans want to hear is what we heard in Venezuela, which is now we're running Iran.
Yeah. The president is very aware of all this stuff, Megan, but I'll tell you, protests, counter regime. I mean, look, in a perfect world, would I love it if a bunch of freedom loving Iranians, who, by the way, are amazing, they're brave people. If you know anything about the Persian people, they're like an incredible group of human beings. If they took over their own country and had a government that was much more friendly to the United States of America, would that be a good thing? Absolutely. That would be a good thing. But
let me explain to you what he really means when he makes this statement, because they phrase it in such a way to make you think like, oh, if you don't know much about foreign policy and the U.S. involvement, it's easy to sit back and listen to this and say, oh, okay, I don't see what's wrong with what he said. When he says that, what they really mean is that they would have a leader in Iran or any other country that the U.S. has issue with that the West installs. It's not like, they basically put a person in front of you and they say, this is the person. The U.S. government has done this in Haiti. They've done it in Libya. They did it in Iraq. Name some other ones. They just did it recently in Syria. I mean, they tried to do this pretty much in Venezuela, but the vice president ended up, taking that spot, who was already under Maduro anyway. That's really what they mean. So even to that point, it's not like, yeah, the Iranian people choosing a different leader, but it's the leader that they put in front of them. And even if that means that the results aren't looking the way that they wanted, well, then they'll just say, well, this person that all the people really voted for, they actually just stole the election and we need to get rid of them. The U.S. government has been doing this for years.
fundamentally, what the president has always been focused on, even with this most recent round of protests, you saw, I think his most recent truth, or at least one of the more recent communications he made about Iran, it's nuclear weapons base. We are still focused on this question of ensuring they don't get a nuclear weapon. And here's the good thing. Because of what happened last summer, I feel 100% confident that even if the Iranians were rushing towards a nuclear weapon, they couldn't get one during the Trump administration. But we're not worried about the next 3 years. We're about the next 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make sure that you don't look. What I really worry about, and I think this is, obviously I disagree a lot with Bill Clinton. But Bill Clinton fundamentally decided, you know what, we're just going to let North Korea have a nuclear weapon. We're not going to do anything to stop it. What happens if 30 years from now, the number of nuclear countries, it's less than 10, maybe about 10? What if it goes to 100? What if every military in the world has a nuclear weapon? What if a crazy person gets elected in some random outpost of the world that you and I couldn't even find on a map, and now all of a sudden a crazy guy has access to nuclear weapons?
We are the crazy guy. We're the crazy guy with the access to the nuclear weapons. The hell is he talking about? So again, the way that you solve this issue is that no one has nuclear weapons. No one is allowed to have them. No one at all. But you can't now just be like, you're going to try to undo something that you've been doing for years. And honestly, if we really want to go there, if this is what they were serious about, then Israel would never have been allowed to acquire a nuclear weapon. So they're just full of it. Let's go to part 2. Let's go to the New World Order, because this is the part that I think a lot of people on social media was like, oh my God, he's insane. No, he's saying it out loud. They want a new world order. Listen to this.
Are we at the beginning of a new world order where we move away from Europe and toward anything else? Maybe even potentially Russia, if we can get past what's happened here? I mean, there's a real question about that, given some of the speeches you've made to the European Union, some of the speeches that President Trump has made, what's happening culturally in Europe, what's their crackdowns on free speech. They just look less and less like we do.
Yeah.
And there's a real question about whether there's a massive shift happening now in terms of world alliances long term.
Well, it's definitely, I think, a new world order. I think the president has sought to it. There's a new world order in trade. There's a new world order in globalization and the way that we invest in our economy versus, foreign supply chains.
Ding, 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 ding. Did everybody hear what JD Vance just said? So they're saying it out in the open. You don't have to speculate anymore. You don't have to say, well, this is what I feel, what I think they're going to do. He's saying it out in the open. There is a new world order. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, hey, I'll say this. I appreciate that he's just putting it all out there on the table. Now all the people who were called some conspiracy theorists about New World Order, now they can get people off their back because he's saying it out in the open. Now, let me tell you what that really means. That means that they have concentrated power in one particular location. And as I told you, strategically, it would be Israel. Because Israel has a lot of the tech. They're already like leading the ranks in tech. There's Palantir, there's the surveillance, there's all of that. There's the oil, there's all the resources that are there in the Middle East. Remember, we talked about the resources that were along the Gaza coast when it came to gas and stuff like that. So strategically, it would be Israel. Professor Jing was talking about this as he was teaching his class, and he was explaining that like the US really wants to have that foothold in the Middle East. So it would make sense. Now, here's the question. If that stronghold centers itself in Israel, in the Middle East, and Israel becomes the big dominant power, what happens to the United States of America? Because it could be possible that even if it means that we will fall, they'll let it fall so that Israel can grow and thrive. Let me explain what I mean by that. The US empire is on a decline. We know through history that empires rise and then they eventually fall. No one stays at the top forever. We are on that sliding board, right? We're sliding down. If you have paid attention to what they've been doing economically, I would say it goes back to trickle-down economics. But an economist may be able to give you a more exact date. If you think about how wealth has been concentrated in this country in particular, and you think about the way the government has been using those funds, like I said, over the years, they put more and more money into defense and less money for the people. They put less money into infrastructure. That's why your bridges are falling apart. That's why your roads suck. They put less money into healthcare. And this is something, even when Biden was president, one of the things he said he was going to do was expand Obamacare. Biden became president, didn't expand Obamacare. So I'm pointing these things out to prove a point. They are giving us less and less, and they are giving Israel more and more. They are setting Israel up to fail, or to succeed, excuse me. They are setting us up to fail. They have been putting so much money into Israel and not the United States. And then they get upset with other countries like Russia or China, where they're actually taking care of the people. But it's not even just about Russia and China being a threat to the United States. It's really about Russia and China being a threat to that new world order, which that power would be centered in Israel. You get what I'm saying? So follow me here. They are willing to let the United States fall so that Israel can succeed. That's what people have to get prepared for. Let's go on more here.
There's a new world order, and the president is willing to shake up some old alliance structures. I mean, NATO, I think, is much different because of the president's leadership than it was 10 years ago. It was sort of coasting. It was effectively a protectorate of the United States of America. Obviously, you saw what happened in Venezuela. So yeah, the president is putting a stamp on world history, but fundamentally in an America first way. Like that is the orienting focus. And so when people say, well, you can't work with Putin on anything because you disagree with the Ukraine invasion. Well, the president said very clearly, Putin should not have invaded Ukraine. We're going to try to work and bring that to an end, but there might be some areas of cooperation too. His attitude is not, you're our friend, you're our enemy. We're going to go to war with our enemies, and we're going to be, we're going to give our friends everything without asking questions. His attitude is, we're about alliances. And you could have a country where we have a 90% aligned interest, but we're going to disagree on 10% of issues. Meanwhile, we may disagree with Russia on a lot, but we may agree on some things. And I do think that is a fundamental reorientation. The other thing that's much different, Megan, about the president's foreign policy and just the way that he does business, and it's, look, there's a lot that I've learned from him. but this is nearly at the top of the list of the things I admire about the President of the United States, is he will talk to anybody. Like, when he was thinking about who to make his vice president, he was talking to the gardener at Mar-a-Lago. He told me that. And I said, well, sir, what did the gardener at Mar-a-Lago said this really matters to my life? But when people say you shouldn't talk to this person, right? You shouldn't talk to Kim Jong-un of North Korea because that gives him something for nothing. No, I'm gonna have a conversation. We're gonna actually conduct diplomacy. If we have to use the military, he's obviously not afraid to do it when he feels like he needs to, but the willingness to just communicate and break down barriers is very important. This is, by the way, Megan, one thing I would say about the Iranians that is just really weird to me, and I don't understand their system, and I frankly think that it makes diplomacy with them extraordinarily difficult, is the person who...
There's that word again. So here we go with diplomacy, national security, democracy. Remember, JD Vance is very well trained in this. He's just a puppet he's Peter Thiel's puppet. And I see some people, they said, well, JD Vance will be better than Trump. Maybe Trump should just retire and get him in there. Do not let JD Vance fool you. He's been trained on how to do this and how to convince you. So he may not speak as harsh as Donald Trump, but sometimes those are the people you really got to watch out for. It's kind of, sometimes it's the ones that smile in your face that are really can be even more dangerous. So what I thought is interesting about this part of the conversation is that he said, well, there are things we can work with Russia on, but we don't agree with them on certain things, but we can work with them. I want you to understand that's because they don't have a choice. They have to find a way to work with Russia. Russia does have powerful weapons. Russia also has a friend called China that's right next door. You see what I'm saying? They have to. They don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons because they don't want to have to work with Iran. Ultimately, that's where a lot of this comes down to. Let me let him finish here.
Makes the decisions in Iran is the supreme leader. Okay, the president, our sense is, doesn't have a lot of juice. Doesn't really matter. The foreign minister seems to talk to the supreme leader, and that's mainly the person that we've communicated with. But it's a very weird country to conduct diplomacy with when you can't even talk to the person who's in charge of the country. That makes all of this much more complicated. And it makes the whole situation much more absurd. Like, he can pick up the phone and call Putin. He can pick up the phone and call Xi. Even countries that we have very hostile relations with, he can pick up the phone. North Korea. He met the guy at the 38th parallel. It is bizarre that we can't just talk to the actual leadership of a country. It makes diplomacy very, very difficult.
No, I don't think it's bizarre. Maybe they're not picking up the phone because there might be a bomb on that phone. We got to think about the fact that you had pagers like explode in Lebanon. Are we forgetting about this? Maybe they're not picking up that phone because they know you tapped that phone. I don't know. Maybe they're not picking up that phone because they know you spying. Don't know. But this is another thing with this mentality that the U.S. has to be on top and nobody else. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes the U.S. anything. They don't have to talk to you. This is what again, when I said the U.S. just goes to police the entire world, this is what I was talking about. These people don't have to talk to you. These people don't have to work with you if they don't want to. What is with this mentality that, like, you must answer me, you must talk to me? If we would have left these countries alone, a lot of the things that people complain about, a lot of the issues that these countries have today is because of Western intervention. Not just us. Also, sometimes, let's be real, Britain, you was all up in there. You was all up in there. You stole riches from the Caribbean. You stole from India. Britain, you was all up in there. But what is scary about this conversation is that JD Vance just blatantly says it out in the open. We want a new world order. And I just wanted you to know what they mean when they say that. Crazy times. Okay. Eric, are you going to do the closeout? We got a lot of there's a lot of super chats, Eric, if you want to do the closeout.
Sure.
I am beat. I will say this though. Arius said Sabby keeps us informed so we can smoke weed.
There you go. I wanted you to see that one.
That was funny.
That's the chat of the night.
Oh my God. Okay, guys.
So you ready for
Eric,
a big game?
yeah. Quick announcement, guys. The Sunday live show will return not this Sunday, but the following Sunday. I know many of you are going to be like, you got plans with your friends and stuff for like Super Bowl and stuff like that. So I understand that. But have a good weekend. And Eric's going to close out the show with the super chats here.
All right, cool.
Bye.
All right. Thank you, Miss Sabrina. Yes, like they said, doing it here so that everyone else can chill and smoke weed if they want to. And you know, there's actually, I mean, I was going to say there's something to that. What I'll say is there's, it's definitely a thing. Like even me, like I'm very involved with the show, but it is a really good way to keep up with news, even if you are fairly kind of connected. It's like, because you know, Sabby digs in and so, you know, you can learn and just come up to speed on a lot of things and just get a lot of the 411 and everything that's happening. But yeah, I'm going to do a quick close up on the show. We got a lot of super chats in the queue that I'll give you a little readout. Hey, the folks in the chat, I see in there. Hey, Bryce and James Green and Fire and others. Thanks as always. Yeah, one of the things I hear is, you know, people talking about like we had candidates on the show tonight, and sometimes the response is, oh, and you know, great candidates tonight. You know, Butch and Anthony Aguilar. I think the biggest thing to be happy about with these candidates is they're not running in the duopoly. They're not part of a corrupt system. So, you know, we don't have to add this argument of, you know, how are you going to change anything if you're a member of a corrupt uniparty? So, you know, we definitely, you know, should give them that. And I would vote for either of them in a second, you know, personally, just for that reason alone. But you got people saying that like one of the things is that voting won't change anything, or voting doesn't work is one of the arguments that I see out there sometimes. And what I would say is it depends on if there's a good candidate to vote for, if there's something good to vote for. There can be things like ballot measures and whatnot. And if you're unhappy with how the voting is working, who you have to vote for, then I would say it's up to you, up to us, to work together and collaboratively to have some kind of a big mass movement, like I say, based on clear demands, calling out that corruption to make that better. You know, we have some good candidates out there, some of them green, some of them independent, and so forth. Let's boost them and let's work on, you know, how can we make it so that we do have a democracy that works. Because, you know, frankly, you know, to keep it 100 with it, to just say voting doesn't work is kind of unserious, to be frank. And, you know, the only way this stuff really gets fixed is if we have a government that is democratically elected as a real democracy, you know, democracy, one person, one vote, not the democracy of dollars we have now. We can't, you know, it's really the only fix for really all of these issues. It always goes back to government. Right now, our government is totally implacably corrupt. And that's what we all have a role in working on and fixing. And if you want to see more on that and that kind of concepts, you know, do check out 11 Demands. I got to learn how to point at it. There we go. 11demands.org, where there's, you know, these ideas are there, there's strategy there. Check out the Substack with posts on this. And part of it is just spreading the word, right? Of just saying, we need to focus on the corruption. Our government is ridiculously corrupt. We need to be having those clear demands. and there's the whole list of demands on, on 11demands.org, and there's the number one demand about fixing the big money. So that's the spiel for that. And if you're feeling, like, what do we do about that? I think that's an attempt to answer that. Is we need to work on it together. All right, now super chats. We got super chat. I don't know why my camera's bouncing. I don't like it, but that's how it goes sometimes. Let's see what we got in the super chat queue, and some of these go back to earlier stories. Shout out to Kirsten, becoming a new member on YouTube. Appreciate that. Thanks for this one, Jay Tolbert. If J.D. Vance meant what he said, he should have been on Trump's case to not let the New START treaty expire. Yeah, that's a good point. That it's that if you're really about nuclear non-proliferation, those treaties are a crucial part of that. Let me just get my queue set up right here. I kind of started near the bottom. All right, I'm going to go back up to the top. So you just go back to the earlier stories. Thanks for the super sticker. Anything but the norm. Appreciate that. Appreciate you. Kenman saying, brother looks suspicious. All right. Measured Man, thanks for the super chat. Who says, Sabby, think back about a month ago, people mad at me because I said Reimer is a controlled op for Jay. He back posting, etc. Yeah, I think this is going back to the Jay-Z story. Some of these. Thanks for this one. Clarissa says the most scandalous moment in history ever. And thanks for the super chat, Jay Tolbert, who says, Sabby, before your show began, I saw a report stating Nancy Guthrie's Ring doorbell was taken. I find that very suspicious also. Yeah, that one was quite a story. And thanks for this one, One Box of One, who says they keep nibbling off of Jamie Foxx 2. Thanks for that. And keeping going through the queue here. Thanks for this one, Raphael. Oprah Winfrey was also very close to Weinstein. Also do an expose on her, and we definitely Sabby definitely has covered Oprah on the show, and it's not good stuff. And thanks, Roger Meadows, who says Jazz Oh Baby Hawaiian Sophie. I know it's tough. Some of these go back a ways from the earlier stories. And thanks, Courtney Smith, who said Jazz O looked like the dude that was on the Everest College commercial from back then. And shout out to F.W. Johnson, becoming a new YouTube member. And we got Clarissa Palmore. Thanks for the super chat saying, Tamika, no. And thanks to Salt and Pepper Natural. Lady in Pick Desiree is his right-hand woman. I assume talking about Jay-Z. F.W. Johnson, thanks for this one. Said, I've never liked Jay-Z. He only came to prominence because of the deaths of Tupac and Biggie. This explains so much. Thanks for those. And we're still cooking along. This camera keeps bouncing. I don't like it, but wow, that's really weird. We won't worry about it. And thanks, Roger Meadows, for this super chat. He says, Desiree Perez, the woman who got caught working in the coke trade by FBI, worked as an informant infiltrating Rock Nation co-ownership with Jay. If you caught a case, see Desiree should get you off. And thanks also, Roger says, this is why Jay is protected from Epi files, because he worked with the FBI. And thanks to Super Chat PSA, who claims Mandami is in the Epstein files. I think you'd have to provide some evidence of that one. I did hear there was an AI fake about Mandami and Epstein. And thanks for this one, the Flower Bro. Dr. Ware's program for California is solid. His staff have been putting together a strategy for Cali to finally actualize the most egregious debt the U.S. owes, reparations and land back. And shout out to Batty Jones, who says, why is Steve Bannon still pushing Trump for the next election? Trump shites himself so much. The only thing he should run for is the toilet. All right. And thanks for this super chat, Clarissa, who says, come on, California, do it for Nipsey ASI. Sorry if I don't quite have that one, but thank you. And thanks for this one, FW Johnson, who says, Sabby, I want to get in touch about Memphis Defense Depot in Memphis. The site was the reason we won World War II, and it's still harming us. All right, you can. I need a little drink there. Reach Sabby at her email, which is in the video description of all the videos. So feel free to shoot an email about that. And thanks for this one, MWP. He says, I assume to Butch Ware, you are mixing lineage-based remedies with racial-based remedies. American freedmen voters don't want broad racial justice policies, but reparations. And thanks for this one from Deep Green. Said, man, Butch Ware is not about that Bull Shapiro nonsense. F yeah, Butch for governor. All right. And let's see here. We got thanks for this one from Ad Kid. Says, thanks, Sabby, for having on Dr. Butch Ware. And thank you, Mr. Ad Kid. And thanks for this one, Helpful Harm, who says, white Euro Latinx in, it's hard to see that on here, Cube, abuse Afro-Latino Indigenous. All right, being a little cryptic there, but thanks for the super chat. And a shout out to Shake Me's Heart. It says, FBAs can fight the good fight in different ways. We don't always have to be on the front lines. And Roger Meadows here expressing his displeasure with Butch, but thanks for the super chat, Roger. And thanks for this one, Deep Green, who says, JB, it's Maybelline Vance. He's full of shite. And actually, we've got one more here out on the rock fins. Let me get that. Actually, it's ready to go. All right, let's show that one. Dun-dun-dun. All right, thanks much for the Rumble rant on Rumble from Hempcar, who says, so the adrenochrome conspiracy is basically true. Why'd they react and protect the cannibal's name? And the link on there. Appreciate that one. I mean, one of the things that I've thought of about, the Epstein files is that, it is the kind of a file dump that it is. It's there are things on there that are accusations that are hearsay, and a lot of it's the type of stuff that should be investigated. And the problem is our government has, for a long time now, been too corrupt to do those investigations. So, if there are political and economic elites, people in those high positions who are unhappy with this information being just kind of dumped out, well, then they should have and still should collaborate with the 99% to decorrupt the government so they can properly investigate these things. And so, if that's not happening, then this kind of chaotic just file dump is what you get. And, we have to write it out. And, that's where we're at. So the fix for it is to demand that we have an uncorrupted government, a less corrupted, let's settle for getting rid of most of the corruption and And it's even hard to imagine because just our government has been so thoroughly corrupt for so long. But the only way it can happen is if there are literally, millions of people on the same page, getting in the streets behind clear demands saying end the corruption and meet the demands and the needs of the 99%. If we can get enough people on that page and go working in that direction, with a demands-based movement, which, is the combination of actions, your general strikes, your direct actions. Mutual aid can have a critical role to play on that in general strikes, and it needs to come together. But it needs to be backed by clear demands. That's what I'll finish on and say that. Check out 11 Demands and one of my favorites here, Fire Pro's on it. All right, MCDS, he's on it. Money, Corruption, Demand Solutions. If you analyze things using the old MCDS, I think you get to a good place of what to do about all this. All right, that's going to do a stew of Matt demands bankruptcy, but that's on him. But we're going to demand an end to the show for tonight. So like Sabrina said, we're going to be off for a few days here. We won't have a live Sunday show, but I'm sure she'll have new clips for you as always, and definite, show clips and new clips. You can see Sabrina live. The next show will be Tuesday at 7 p.m. I thought we had a good show tonight, big show. And of course, big sports weekend coming up. Thanks to Arcane Electric, saying thanks this way, and thanks to everyone. And until next time, we're going to say, like Sabrina says, have a good night. Keep up the fight. I'll see you all next time. Thanks.